Oh, hey, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to our very special by-election coverage of the Battle River-Crowfoot by-election in Alberta. Now, why is this interesting? Well, because it is the by-election where presumably the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, will win his seat and thus end up back in the House of Commons. I'm your host for tonight, or co-host, one of three, I think, for the majority of the evening, Sheila Gunn-Reid, and I'm joined by my friend in Regina, Saskatchewan, my co-host on the Rebel Roundup, our news and opinion show that's over the 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock Eastern, depending on where you're watching from, show. It's Lise Merle. Lise, how's it going?
Hello, Sheila Gunn-Reid. Well, I'm so excited to be here tonight as we cover the election, the most exciting election we've had in about, what is it, about 5 months? About
Yeah,
5 months.
I was going to say about 90 seconds.
Yeah,
We're back.
It feels that way, doesn't it? But it is a consequential election. We do have the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada running for a seat, and that puts special attention on the riding of Battle River-Crowfoot. So just delighted to be here.
Now, so I'm in Alberta, Lise, as I said, is in Regina. We also have somebody in the studio in Toronto. Do we have the boss?
Hi, how you doing? It's Ezra here. I'm in Toronto. You know what? I love Alberta. I was born and raised there. I have been out to this part of the province. It's pretty conservative out there. And I think the only question is how big of a majority will Pierre Poilievre get? I'm chuckling because I was looking at a story by the CBC state broadcaster, and they really believe, and they believe it every time, and you got to love that childish wonder with which they look at the race and think, there's a candidate out there named Bonnie Critchley, who happens to be gay. And by the way, there are gay people in Alberta. Calgary elected a gay mayor long before Toronto even talked about being progressive like that. My point is, it's no big deal in Alberta, but it's such an important part of the CBC's narrative. They actually think that Bonnie Critchley, an independent candidate who happens to be gay, has a real shot of winning, and she's a giant killer, and she's a dark horse, and she's going to come behind and do it. And you know what? It's pitiful, and it shows their bias, but it's sort of cute that they think that Alberta is anything but full of detestation towards the regime. And I don't know. I don't think there's going to be much to look for tonight other than the goofiness of the 214 names on the ballot, some of whom I've learned were former Elections Canada employees. So
Isn't that something?
Anyways, I don't want to take up all the time. I love these election night broadcasts. You guys are in the heart of the West, but I'm out here because I want to see how Pierre Poilievre does in his new home.
Yeah, it's going to be something to see how he compares to Damien Carrick. I think he's the previous MP who I think will never have to buy another beer anywhere in Alberta if he ever walks into a pub. He stepped aside after winning his seat at first in 2019 with like 86% of the vote. He slipped a little in 2025 down to 83% of the vote. I wonder how close Poilievre is going to come to that. If you get all your news from the CBC or even to the great shame of the National Post too, but also the Tyee, they are all saying he's, Bonnie Critchley's the one up against the election meddling, and Bonnie Critchley is the one who's the hometown girl trying to make it big against this drop-in candidate from Ottawa named Pierre Poilievre. So we'll see. I think everybody's going to be disappointed tonight on the left.
Let me just slip in one last comment, and then I'll cork it and let you guys do the talking. But you mentioned the Tyee. That's a hardcore left-wing magazine that was founded by San Francisco billionaires at the Tides Foundation. So it's sort of wackadoodle stuff. But their headline, I just got to read this headline.
You have to.
The military vet who could end Poilievre's political career. Her fight is daunting, but indie candidate Bonnie Critchley isn't one to back down. The military vet who could end Poilievre's political career. I am so excited that this San Francisco written story, maybe they understand Alberta better than I do, because I have been away for a while.
Yeah, they know for sure. Michael Harris, by the way, the guy who whose most famous tweet was, "Harper is lurking."
That's right.
After Harper resigned. That's the guy who wrote that. I don't know the last time that Michael Harris set foot in Alberta, but she's a darling. Bonnie Critchley, I should say, is a darling of the CBC. They had her on Power and Politics. National Post has written glowing headlines, like as though the 100 plus at the time when that article was written, meddling busybody candidates from the longest ballot campaign committee, as though they were targeting her. And this whole business about her being a military vet, that is true. But if you follow military vets on X the way I do, a lot of them are calling her out for a little bit of exaggeration, embellishment of the nature of her service. Lee Humphrey, we know Lee. Yeah. We like Lee. He points out that, he says, I dropped this post in the thread. Stolen valor comes in many forms. There she is enjoying a Tim Hortons in, I guess, Kandahar. Sometimes it's a person who never served pretending they did. Sometimes it's someone who served pretending they received medals they didn't deserve, or embellishing their record. As a reservist, Ms. Critchley did serve in Afghanistan. She did not see combat and is as far away from being one of the, quote, first women to do so as you can get. Being proud of and clear of what you did do and not allowing others to embellish your actual military service is critical to every veteran whose reputation matters to them. She should correct the record ASAP. And then people that she served with were coming out and saying, yeah, we weren't in combat. We were there actually deployed after combat ended, and we were there to bring stuff home.
You know what? That just fits, lesbian candidate, U-Haul, packing up. It's, after, it's so on the nose. But I'm looking again at that Brokeback Mountain article in the Tyee. Bonnie Critchley, the military vet who could end Poilievre's political career. Yep. They say, and I'm quoting here, she made history as one of the first women to serve in a Canadian combat arms unit. And then they say a second time, the answer is complex. She is the veteran who returned from her combat deployment. In fact, they use the word combat 4 times in the article. I guess that's what, I guess she's a liar.
Yeah. Yep. Huh. At least as Lee says, if somebody else is writing this about you and you didn't say it yourself, is it a lie if you don't correct the record? I would say so.
I mean, of course she read this article. Of course she circulated it. But she, you know what? I can imagine the Tyee down in San Francisco very excited about, having this candidate who's going to end Poilievre's career. And so they maybe just embellish just a teeny tiny tad. And you know what you do? You just send a quick note, hey guys, love the free article written in San Francisco. I know you guys are billionaires from the Tides Foundation, super grateful, but just dial it back a little bit. But she didn't do it because she loved the lie. Hey, there she is talking to my bald friend at the CBC. What does she have to say? I think that's her.
That is her.
Or is that Chantal Hébert? I'm not sure. But here, just put some volume up. I want to hear a little bit about what she has to say.
It could be Coyne. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be Andrew Coyne.
They all look the same.
Try to give the bald guy, Olivia, talking to Andrew Coyne there.
My slogan, which isn't a slogan, it's simply the truth. This is our home. This is our riding. We just had an election and we spent all that money and we elected the candidate of our choice who promptly turned around and said, no, I don't want that mandate I asked you for. And we're spending another $2 million to vote in the angry guy from Ottawa who doesn't know jack about this area. He may have been born in Calgary, but he's from Ottawa. He hasn't been here. He hasn't lived here. And even if he had stayed in Calgary, this is a very different area than the urban centers he's used to.
All right, I'm going to make a bet, you guys. I'm going to make a bet. You don't have to take it. I'm going to bet you that she gets single digits, even though she's been feted around the world. She's been the toast of the town. From the CBC to the Tyee, the entire political spectrum from A to B is behind Bonnie Critchley. They're excited. Tonight is the night. I bet you $1 that she's going to get single digits tonight.
Yeah, she's also from Kelowna.
I was just gonna say, her slogan that's not a slogan doesn't make much sense when you put it in the context of she grew up in Kelowna, British Columbia, and only after retirement, which can't be that terribly long ago, can it? Moved to the River-Crowfoot area with her family. So, which is it, Bonnie? Is it your home or is it someone else's home that you're just sort of astroturfing into to run in this election? Like, which is it?
Yeah, it's quite something.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about the night. Yeah. It's going to be really goofy with,
the
writing the name of the candidate. There's 214 candidates on the list, including some former staff from Elections Canada, which is really weird. You have to write the name. And if I was looking at the ballot correctly, and I just glanced at it, you have to do the last name and I think first name or first initials. I'm not sure if that's true. Like they got to count if you write Poilievre, which by the way is a hard name to spell.
Mm-hmm. Precisely the point.
I think there's going to be some shenanigans afoot because if you don't know how to spell Poilievre or Poilievre, as he used to be known as, Poilievre, you're not going to know how to spell it. I bet you ask 10 people to spell Poilievre, you'll get 5 different spellings.
Well, and that's the point. And then that means that every single one of these ballots has to be examined for, for intent, as they say. Yeah, it's a very difficult name to spell. It's a very French spelt name in a very Anglo region of this country. But that was the intent of the longest ballot committee, which is just a busybody campaign of election meddlers, wherein Elections Canada didn't do anything about what they did in the last election, where they ran 90 plus candidates against Poilievre in his Ottawa Carleton riding, and that worked. And Stéphane Perreault, who's the head of Elections Canada, didn't do anything, and now they're doing it again. And then instead of throwing out all these people who all have the same agent, financial agent, because it's real easy to identify the scam when you say, oh, all 200 of you, all of the same financial agent. Oh, so you're all in on the scam? Oh, you're fake candidates. We can get rid of you. They didn't do anything. And because they didn't want to print a ballot that was 7 feet long, now we've got to do write-ins. And I just sent the team in Toronto the signs around River-Crowfoot now. So Poilievre has these signs out that show you how to write his name into the ballot. Yeah,
like it is spelled P-O-I.
Signs now. Those are lawn signs now. This is how you vote, because we don't get to do it the old-fashioned way.
Well, Elections Canada created this problem in the first place by not nipping the longest ballot committee in the bud. But then they had to come along with a solution to their own problem that they created. And this is the solution. The solution further muddies the water and further opens the door to all sorts of weird electoral malfeasance.
Look at this.
But then again, we know that, there it is. Yeah, there's the sign.
That's out there in Tofield, I think.
So funny, so good. But as we know, Elections Canada, as far as I guess delivering their mandate, goes, has spent more time and money on DEI initiatives than they have on securing elections in Canada, and this is just more evidence of it. We may not get result tonight. Like, it may take some time for them to scrutinize all of those many ballots that are going to be called into question.
Yeah. I myself was investigated by Elections Canada for about 5 years. I was put through like 3 or 4 trials because I wrote a book in 2019 called 2019 called The Libranos. And we had lawn signs, and they hated those, and they said that was an election expense. So they spent an enormous amount of time prosecuting my book, investigating my book. They hired 2 senior RCMP vets for the case. And by the way, I'm not saying that we should suppress people who want to run, But I think that they should go out there, get the signatures in the district, maybe have some sort of resonance. Like you have to have, I don't know. I don't want to bring in laws that would fix this problem but create 5 other problems. And we want people to have the right to run. But it's so, this is the equivalent of, on a website, sometimes you get something called a CAPTCHA, like it says, click on all the bicycles or click on all the bar. You have to do something to prove you're not a robot. You know what I mean? On some websites. That's what we need to do here. Show up and hand in. How about this? I'm coming up with one. You have to show up in the district and hand in your 50 or 100 nominations in person. I bet you $1 that of the 214 candidates, 190 of them have never even been in the district.
Well, and I think you should have to have a different financial agent.
That probably makes sense. I don't think that's necessary. An accountant's an accountant. But there has to be some way to, these are the human equivalent of bots. This is, people talk about fake news. These are literally fake candidates. And the purpose is clear. Become a hassle for only conservatives. They don't do this to liberals or New Democrats. In this case, the solution, and I wonder if the Elections Canada employee who's running as a fake candidate conferred with the Elections Canada employees who are running the thing to cook up this scheme where you have to handwrite Pierre Poilievre.
Exactly.
To make it a hassle so people can't do it. And so you can say, he only got 60% of the vote. Well, yeah, because you just changed the rules. You rigged the rules. You changed the rules halfway.
Well, and this has been on the radar of Stéphane Perreault. I watch these committees and then I go back and rewatch the committees. And I went and rewatched one of the last times that he was at committee. And it was at the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. And it was in November of 2024. And already then, the Conservatives, it was particularly Michael Cooper, who hammered him on the issue of the fake candidates making a mockery of the election. And so that was in advance of the last election. He didn't do anything about it. It was brought up on his radar. He didn't do anything about it. Poilievre loses Ottawa Carleton for a bunch of different reasons, but then now they're targeting him in Battle River-Crowfoot. So now it's been on Stéphane Perreault's radar for 2 elections. And what has he done? A big fat nothing. But this is the Stéphane Perreault who oversaw the loss of 800 and some odd ballots in one BC riding, and then lost count of a bunch of others, and then screwed up in a Quebec riding that was flipped by just 1 vote to the Liberals. So, what does it take to get fired over there? I'm not sure.
I watched the Trump administration, and on the very first day, he signed, 20, 30 executive orders that they had clearly been working on for months, even years. And he keeps on coming out with the hits. And he does things that were regarded as impossible. Like they just yanked 6,000 visas from foreign students who were engaging in pro-Hamas shenanigans. There's nothing they won't do. I was just on my show tonight. They brought in an executive order against political debanking. So if you weren't allowed to bank and buy firearms using your bank account or support something Trumpy, that's now illegal to have that political acid test of your banking. And the reason I say this is because you have to attack the entire system if you've got a chance. Because Stephen Harper was PM for 9 or 10 years, whatever it was, and he made some changes, but he didn't destroy the infrastructure of the bad guys. He didn't fundamentally reform anything. In fact, the CBC got bigger and stronger under his watch. The Senate, he basically handed it to Trudeau to pack. There were so many things he did not do. Whereas Trump, it's like he's a madman thinking he probably knows how many days he has left. He probably knows to the day. And he's using every lever of power to get everything done. It's like he knows he's got only a few hours. And in Canada, we've never had a Conservative Party do that. Trudeau or not Trudeau, but his handlers, had that approach to politics. They had a totalist approach to politics. For example, summer job grants for students. That was an opportunity to propagandize. If you didn't share Trudeau's views on access to abortion for any reason or no reason paid for by the government up to the moment of birth, then you couldn't, like, you had to swear an attestation. I don't know if you remember that story. So the Liberals are totalitarian in that they use every lever at their disposal. Nothing is sacred or off limits. Conservatives don't fight that way. If Pierre Poilievre ever actually becomes prime minister, he should remember how they tried to kill him. He should remember every dirty deed they did to him. And he's got to push every single button on the dashboard like Trump is doing. I don't know if he's got the cold-bloodedness to do that. It's a pleasure to watch Trump do it. I don't know if anyone in Canada is built that way.
Well, and sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I was just going to say, Harper's prime ministership was a lot like Trump's first administration.
Yes.
So you get in there, you get your bearings, and let's not forget, Pierre Poilievre worked with Harper at that time, and so would have been subject to everything that happened at that time. And you know, while you're getting the lay of the land and while you're learning the layout of Ottawa, I think they got overwhelmed in the Harper era, right? Making concessions. Pierre Poilievre's kick at the can for prime ministership should look a lot like Trump's second administration. He's had the time to figure out that there are systemic rots that are happening inside Ottawa, and that he has to tackle them all at once, both on the economic side and on the social side, because I think that the Conservatives really, really avoided some of the more controversial social issues that are currently plaguing Canada. And if anything, I hope that Pierre Poilievre, if he should be so lucky to win tonight, should be on a Western conservative trade mission back to Ottawa. He should be exporting Alberta values and injecting them straight into the heart of Ottawa, because that is what we truly need right now, is more Alberta, less Ottawa. So.
Well, and I think if he's going to do it, he has to be Trumpy about it. You know how Trump is just signing executive orders and executive orders and executive orders from his first day in office. You have to take the stinger out of it right away, because the media, whether you move fast or move slow, what's the media going to say? What's the left going to say? The sky is falling. Everybody's going to lose their health care. And we're all going to boil because of climate change. And so you have to give the voters, the easily influenced voters, enough time before the next election to realize that those things happened. You still have access to your doctor. You didn't die in a boiling climate inferno. Everything's going to be fine. We stopped out of control immigration, and guess what? You could still find people to work at the Tim Hortons. You have to give people a time to realize how badly they're being gaslit and lied to by the media before they cast their next ballot. Do it fast.
You know, I have on my page the Elections Canada results for the election. Now, they don't start for 6 more minutes, so everyone's at 0. But what it is a list of all the names. And I tell you what, if this were a by-election to install Mark Carney or Justin Trudeau or some Liberal, and 200 spoilers, 200 human bots, 200 fake candidates, 200 interlopers, I put it to you, 90% of whom have never even set foot in the riding. Do you doubt that Mark Carney's CBC state broadcaster would have assigned 10 staff to contact every single name on this list and ask them questions like, have you ever been to the riding? Who set you up for this? What are the terms of the deal? If elected, what do you like? Will you even be there on election day? But whatever the questions are, who put you up to this? What is your history? Are you a union activist? Are you an activist? And like whatever the questions are, do you doubt that the CBC would have massacred these 200 fakes? Of course, that's what they would have done.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever worked for Elections Canada? Do you work for the federal government? Any of those things?
Sure. Are you a public service worker? Right.
Yeah, right.
Exactly that. Yeah.
But no.
You know what? What a joke! But Elections Canada is a joke. I mean, my God, everyone could see how the People's Republic of China was commandeering elections, and they were silent as a mouse. They were silent as a mouse as Han Dong bust in hundreds of children.
Yeah.
Well, it's 10:26 Eastern, which is 8:26 Mountain Time, which means in 4 minutes' time, the polls will close, and shortly thereafter, I think the results will start coming in. I don't know if there has been a special announcement saying they're going to need extra time. Wouldn't surprise me if they do. We will know who wins within minutes. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Pierre Poilievre is going to win.
Right, for sure.
So there you go. Our decision desk at 8:26 Mountain Time is pleased to announce that Pierre Poilievre has won. You can go ahead and tweet
You know
that.
what? This is what it feels to be an Alberta voter, because they're always calling this for us in Toronto before we're even done voting. But we should tell everybody how they can get involved. You know what? Send us your predictions. By how much do you think Poilievre is going to win by? Send me your predictions. How many votes do you think Bonnie Critchley is going to get, percentage-wise? Let me know. You can send that to us if you're watching us over on Rumble. You can leave us a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat over there. If it's over $5, we're making it obligatory. We're going to read it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our very best to make time to get to it. And guess what we're doing? Killing time. So you will probably get to it. And if you're over on YouTube, you can leave something called a super chat. And that is their paid chat. Same rules apply. But if you are watching for some reason the recorded version of this live stream, you can also leave us a paid comment. It's called a super thanks. And the reason we tell you about this, and the reason, quite frankly, I'm asking for you to send us these, is because we will never take a penny from Mark Carney or any level of government to do the work that we do here at Rebel News. You can tell by how they've covered Bonnie Critchley and how I talk about Bonnie Critchley. That's government money doing the talking over there. So that's how you can get involved in the show. Do we want to bring on our guest, Efron, or give him a couple of minutes to get ready? Got it. I heard that. All right. Bonnie Critchley, an independent to watch. Watch for what?
The amount of diversity boxes that she checks, though, just truly staggering. Like truly all the way staggering.
Yeah.
You know, first a woman, right? And then sort of a masculine woman, we'll say. You know what I mean? Just got some masculine energy to her. And then a veteran.
Yeah,
just all of
I see the Toronto Star, Ezra sent the Toronto Star article about Bonnie Critchley. And apparently her campaign is well organized. I did not get those vibes, as Krista Freeland said, as I watched her debate performance. She came off as crotchety, and she got booed when she went after Damien Keurig in the room. An independent candidate to watch tonight. Watch for what? Will be military veteran Bonnie Critchley, the cowboy-hatted independent candidate who has drawn attention with her well-organized campaign and sharp critiques of Pierre Poilievre. She made the decision to run, she says, after seeing her freshly elected MP step down, and said her riding deserves representation from someone who actually lives there.
That's funny because, you can't disagree with that, but
Sure.
She's been pretty quiet about the 200 candidates who don't actually live there and have never set foot there. It's almost like she's in league with them, or certainly doesn't have any complaints about them. And she's worried about the public expenditure, which tells me she's close to my own heart, but she doesn't have a word to say about the expense and the resources necessary for a 214 name ballot. It's almost like Ms. Critchley isn't as candid as she should be.
Right. You want to know why? Because the only person who might do worse in that riding than Bonnie Critchley is probably, Darcy Spady, the Liberal. So, I mean, she's just a Liberal, but you can't really run a Liberal, big L Liberal in that riding. So they found Bonnie, and they sure like her. I don't know what the most offensive thing about her is. Maybe it's her cowboy hat. It's the cattleman's pinch. I don't like that crown, but that's just a personal thing.
you know, there's one person that's real upset with the left's vapid adoption of Bonnie Critchley, and that's our friend, what's her name, Catherine Swampy.
Okay,
Catherine Swampy is real upset that the left has adopted Bonnie Critchley as their darling. Catherine Swampy is like, but my diversity point, what are my diversity points not worth anything to you guys anymore? No, they're dancing with their darling.
Do you remember Catherine Swampy, the perennial NDP candidate who runs in and around the Wetaskiwin area? I think she lives on Maskwacis, which used to be called Hobima. She ran under Rachel Notley's NDP, and I think she ran federally, and she had her husband, I don't know if they're still married, I don't know, I didn't follow up, and they have those gangbanger pictures sort of came out, and I just...
Right, and Catherine Swampy, she was the candidate at the debate that told everybody else to check their privilege. Remember that? From the stage. It was just like, that didn't land well.
While she called herself an overeducated academic.
Right. That's unemployable outside of her own tiny bubble. Yes.
Oh, she also called... Okay. So Olivia whispers in my ear that we have our first guest. It's Josh Udall. Am I saying that right? I just read it. I never say it.
You were spot on. Yes. People usually don't get it the first time, so way to be.
Okay, great. Because, you know, like you see words and you just read them, but you never actually say them. Josh Udall, you are the host of the Elevate podcast. I think this is your first time on Rebel News, is it?
It is my first time, 100%.
Oh,
yeah.
What a delight. I think you're an up and coming, I think, conservative commentator in Canada. I don't know how you would describe yourself, but you've got kind of a new podcast. I think it's great. I think you do some great commentary, and I've just watched you grow sort of during the election campaign and post the election campaign. I'm so glad to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
No, thanks for having me. It means a lot.
Yeah. Josh, who are you watching tonight? You know, if you're following the Toronto Star, you're supposed to be all eyes on Bonnie Critchley.
Of course, that is, of course, where they want you to focus. I actually had, you know, if we go back to where the debates were doing the other night, where you had Grant Abraham, who really made a splash early on, and then decided to target Poilievre during that time, and people got the people going. They got fired up, and that kind of sunk him in a huge way, I would say. And honestly, I have more of my eyes on him, if I'm being honest. Bonnie Critchley is just where they want us to focus. But the reality is, I think I was seeing it, like, we're expecting Poilievre to hit like 69, 70% of the vote. And the left is seeing that as a win because, the previous Conservative member got 80% in a very hotly contested election, but people are on for summer vacation right now. I'm on summer vacation. I just got off the golf course 20 minutes ago. I'm just enjoying, like, who's in town to do this election, really? I think 70% during the middle of the summer, I think, is still very good. And that's where they're trying to hang their win right now. And I get it. People are frustrated. Well, you're parachuting a candidate in, yada, yada, yada. Well, that's what's happening. That's where we're at. So I think Poilievre's going to be well on his way to taking this one tonight.
I'm so happy that you mentioned Grant Abraham, Josh, because he had a spectacular early showing in that debate performance. Like what he was saying, he was hitting every nail on the head. And then it felt like he crossed a little bit of a line and lost the audience. And we were actually really lucky on this live stream to be able to chat with Grant Abraham about some of the things he said. And he didn't back off necessarily. Right. He did not back off. And I think the questions that he is posing are important questions, especially as it pertains to conservatism and what it means to be a Western conservative. Grant said things that would make a liberal or left-leaning politician blush, such as, I believe that there are only two genders. I believe that the compelled speech isn't free speech. He said a whole bunch of things that made a whole bunch of sense. But you're right, he lost the audience somewhere in the middle. But it was interesting to see his name pop up, Ezra, because if they're alphabetically ordered, Grant Abraham is right at the top of that ballot. So we'll see if that makes any difference in the showings.
Well, I want to jump in quickly because I'm curious, because Grant, he comes from a legal background, and the one thing he really made an issue of was he talked about the security clearance, which, quite frankly, is, well, a keyword that will totally, everyone will tune you out immediately. But when he came on my show, he explained it, and I'm sure he explained it here, of like, if Pierre could have done it, and he could have dealt with the legal consequences of it.
Right.
And I think we have Ezra on as well. I know that obviously Ezra has a legal background. Do you agree with Grant's assessment of that? And was Pierre right or wrong to do what he did?
So, and I'll just give Ezra the Coles Notes version of what Grant said. He basically said, if it is in the interest of national security, you can violate your security clearance, being sworn to secrecy, or you could just do it because you are a principled man and then deal with the fallout afterwards. And so that was his assessment of, why he thought Poilievre is making excuses for not getting his security clearance so that he could find out who the 11 traitors are, but not the rest of us.
Yeah, it's a really great question, and it's a real moral dilemma, isn't it?
It is. It's a quandary.
But I just have to think that a guy who wants to be the prime minister and leads by example has got to be that one extra degree clean. And that saying, a fish rots from the head down. And look at the two different prime ministerships, Stephen Harper versus Justin Trudeau, how they led by example. Here's a fact about Harper that you might not know. Obviously, he flew to a ton of global events, G7s, NATO meetings, etc. He would typically come home rather than stay a night or an extra night in that destination because he was so paranoid about his hotel bills and his food bills that as a form of keeping the cost down, he would come home early, not early, like he wouldn't leave a meeting unmet, but if possible, they would leave without staying in a hotel. They were so worried about perception. Remember, Bev Oda, a cabinet minister, lost her job over a $16 bar fridge hotel minibar orange juice. Compare that to Justin Trudeau, who mere months into office is taking a $100,000 gift from the Aga Khan to party on Billionaire Island. And it trickles down. My point is, if you want to be PM and you say, well, I'm going to break a rule because I know better. You're basically giving a liberty to everyone, and you're in the lawmaking business. You're in the ethics business. So I don't agree. Look, the media's always going to find something to really focus on. If it wasn't that, it would be something else. And yeah, sometimes it was a little hard to explain, but I think Poilievre made the right move. That's just my view.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do too. And as you point out, there is a stark contrast between the two parties. We know that the Conservatives actually told on their own Senator Victor O when they were like, he's getting a little bit too cozy with China. He's taking some PRC-linked travel. They told on him, that he was I think a Harper-appointed senator. They told on themselves. And then you look at Justin Trudeau, who, after warnings from the government, he signed the nomination papers for Gary Ananda Sangari after the Sri Lankan government said he's linked to terror. Don't do this. Didn't matter. Trudeau went and signed those because he knew that he was a strong fundraiser from the Tamil community. So you just see the two different, then there's Han Dong. Signing those nomination papers, knowing full well what went on in that riding. They were all aware of it. They all testified that they were aware of irregularities there during the nomination process, but they signed it anyways. Busloads of Chinese students. Oh, who paid for the bus? I don't know. Where are they from? I don't know. They all look the same. I don't know.
Let's get right down to it. I don't know if you, the selection of Mark Carney as the new Liberal leader after Justin Trudeau, that internal vote that the Liberals had, 200,000 ballots were not counted. They were just chucked out, and no one cared? No, it was, I don't know if you saw the debate amongst those candidates. It was a love-in. They had already all accepted Mark Carney as the boss. There was no prickly questions. The one who would have asked prickly questions, Ruby Dalla, was not allowed in, and a couple of others as well. 200,000 ballots thrown out, no explanation, and no one in the media showed any curiosity. about that. And by the way, do you doubt for a second that the People's Liberation Army's hackers had the means, motive, and opportunity to hack into an all-online system? Do you doubt that they could? Do you doubt that they would? It's one thing to steal Han Dong's riding, but imagine placing the Prime Minister right into 24 Sussex Drive. Do you really think they wouldn't try and do that? And do you really think anyone in Canada in power objected to it? Not a word. Anyway, I'm keeping my eyes peeled on the results so far. 0.
Oh, okay. How exciting. Yeah, I mean, they threw out more ballots than they accepted in the Liberal leadership thing. That's outrageous. They tossed out 200,000 and kept 159.
Let me throw one more stat at you.
Do it.
You would think, you've got 300 plus districts or ridings in this country. You would think that there would be some sort of difference between how a rural and an urban riding would go, a Quebec and a Western riding. Right. You would think, for example, Chrystia Freeland would be quite strong in her home district, and same with the other Karina Gould and the other candidates. But it was so obviously manufactured and massaged. They had almost precisely the same ratio in every single district. Are you telling me that Chrystia Freeland didn't even win her own district? That Karina Gould didn't even win her own district? These MPs, many of whom had been there for a decade, who were household names, who had worked the doors. Are you telling me that Mark Carney, who 90% of even Liberals hadn't heard of before, got the same percentage, plus or minus 10%, in every single district, including the home turf of his rivals, Karina Gould and Chrystia Freeland? It's so obviously implausible. It's a fake. It's a fake. Absolutely, it's a fake.
Well, the one thing I did find very interesting there too is, I just want to accentuate the point. You said it there perfectly there, Ezra. But as well, like she didn't just beat out Gould. It didn't just beat out Freeland. He smoked them. He smoked them. Like that doesn't make any logistical sense, considering how long they've been in the party for and how well they're known in their communities. It literally didn't make any sense. But also, I guess it helps when Freeland helps you out during a debate, saying he didn't actually say that about Hamas.
Right.
I swear he didn't. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, there we go. You can see the results here. They were so uniform. I'm not a strong mathematician, but I put the results into Grok and I did some sort of statistical analysis. I should dig that up. And what is the likelihood of this result being this similar in every single district? And I think Grok said 1 or 2%. It's 99% likely, said Grok, when you feed the numbers in, that this is not a natural result. Anyways, we're talking too much about it, but I put it to you that absolutely we have corruption in our voting. I don't think it's as widespread as was in the U.S. with their massive mail-in ballots and their ballot harvesting, but don't think for a second we don't have jiggery-pokery in our system too.
Yeah, I watched 12 weeks of the Foreign Interference Commission. It's a mess and they've done nothing to fix it, and you can see it. Sorry.
And it's done strategically too. Yeah, it's done strategically as well. It's not like you're going to see widespread, issues with our voting. It's just going to be in specific ridings at specific times, just enough to make sure the regular person doesn't catch on to it, and that you can still explain it away. So.
Josh, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we let you go, because I think we have our next guest waiting in the wings, how do people find you? How do they see the work that you do?
Please, yes. You can find us anywhere you stream podcasts at the Elevate Podcast, ELEV8 podcast. We're on YouTube, and we're also on X, as well as TikTok. So you can kind of check us out there, and love to see you. Love to have you.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Let's hit a couple of these chats that came in. We've got one from Arancini, Sicily. Oh, that sounds Spanish or sounds Italian, and I know that I said all the C's wrong there. $3.99, and I don't see a chat, but maybe if we have a chat sneak up on us, we'll just read it because it might not have attached. One for 1CP, also no chat. But $10, so thank you so much. Yeah. Cryptomaria gives us $2 and says, giddy up for the rodeo. Do you know what? In more ways than one.
Oh, we have no idea.
You have no idea. Then we've got another. Oh, look at this from our friend, Convoy Freedom Fighter, Tamara Leach. Gives us $6.99, and she says Pierre should handedly win. Great to see you guys. No, great to see you, Tamara. Thanks so much for pitching in a little bit.
Thanks, honey. What a little honey she is.
She is the greatest. Mike from Freedom Honey. So this is our friend Mike. I showed that picture that he sent me earlier of how Pierre Poilievre is telling people how to fill out their ballots. Mike lives in the riding, and he gives us $5 and says, Sheila, nobody's voting for the angry lesbian.
I think you take that back. Andrew Coyne will get a few votes.
Oh, God. You know what? There's something about the ladies and men of the left where they just all morph into that boiled potato look, where they just, Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, Bonnie Critchley, you name it, they all start to just...
Interchangeable potato heads. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. They all become Mr. Potato Head. Anyways, Mike also says more people are supporting a random sheet of OSB. Yeah, there's a random sheet of OSB that was like in amongst the signs on the side of the road. And he's like, oh, I'd rather vote for OSB. Alrighty. Do we have our next guest? Oh, there she is. Is she coming on? There she is.
There she is.
So our next guest is Rebel News journalist. Although a lot of the work that she does at Rebel News, hard work, happens behind the scenes. Although sometimes she'll grace the front of your screen. It's Angelica Toy. She's based in Calgary, but she's done some journalism on the election. Angelica, thanks for coming on the show. Tell me, who do you think is going to win tonight, and why is it not Bonnie Critchley?
My bet is on Pierre Poilievre. Of course, we have seen forever Alberta has been mainly conservative, especially in ridings such as Battle River-Crowfoot, which are, of course, more of the rural areas made up of oil rig workers and farmers and truck drivers. Their values completely align with those of the Conservatives. So I am definitely betting on Pierre Poilievre to win this by-election.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that. That this is a coal riding, and so many of the towns in this riding have suffered from the early coal phase out that was in collaboration with the NDP. But this is also the riding that houses Hardisty, which is a major oil tank farm. It's a town of a few hundred people, but outside of that, it's a major tank farm that is the genesis of, or would be the genesis of Keystone XL. So a lot of the oil that flows south to the United States flows out of Hardisty, and that was the oil that Doug Ford and Mark Carney said you should not send to the Americans. So this is a town, or Poilievre is coming into a place where all the issues that he talked about theoretically in Ottawa, Carleton, they're very real and live on the ground right now.
Absolutely. People right now are voting to protect their livelihoods, to be able to put food on their tables, to have a real shot at life, I guess, per se, especially with immigration. If we vote in someone like Pierre Poilievre, of course, he has another chance at being our federal prime minister. And the people in smaller Alberta towns, of course, have the traditional values, as you like to call them, of less immigration coming into Alberta. So again, I think these people really are voting for their future.
Lise?
Yeah, well, thank you. I believe that they are looking for a seat at the table in Ottawa too, and looking at this election like a real opportunity for them, because for Pierre Poilievre's entire career, he's been very Ottawa-centric, right? Like we've talked about this. And when you're Ottawa-centric and your spheres of influence are all Ottawa people and you never quite get out of that bubble, Alberta is going to be an entirely different beast to the Poilievre team. And we can only hope that in these last couple of weeks, in the lead up to tonight's election, that he's experienced a really good dose of Alberta immersion. Really listen to the people of Alberta, and that he can take those voices all the way into Ottawa, inject some Alberta into Ottawa, maybe.
Hey, Angelica, I want to talk to you while I have you on something that is, it's Alberta centric, but a little bit unrelated to the Battle River-Crowfoot, although I think the separatist sentiment is percolating underneath everything in this province. I want to talk to you about the journalism you did on the Alberta Forever petition, which was comical. So to tell us about the Alberta Forever petition, which is a counter petition to the Alberta Prosperity Project's one, which would see Albertans, they want to collect enough signatures for Albertans to be offered a chance to say, should we stay or should we go now? Now, tell us about this outstanding piece of journalism that you stumbled across, where you encountered former deputy PC leader Thomas Lukaszik's attempts to maintain the status quo, him and all the elbows up of boomers in Calgary.
Yes, so for those who don't know, Thomas Lukazik, a big independence critic, started a petition that was greenlit by our government here in Alberta. This was called the Alberta Forever Canada petition. And he has pretty much 90 days to gather was it 200,000 signatures? 300,000.
300,000 because he filed a day early.
There we go. That's quite the high number. But yeah, so 300,000 signatures in 90 days. And we have groups of people that have been stationed across Calgary collecting these signatures. And so my colleague and I, Sid Fazard, we went to one. We wanted to speak to some of the organizers there and those who were signing the petition. And we were met with a lot of childlike behavior, which of course I recommend go watch the video if you want to see that unfold. But as I was talking to these people, I noticed a pattern. And the pattern was that all of these people genuinely believe that Canada is a free nation. It is one of the best countries in the world. That was something they continue to repeat. And I think that was our problem. That is our initial difference. We have those who want to vote for Alberta separation and independence, and those who want to remain as one country. The people who want to vote for independence believe that we are being treated unfairly by Ottawa, that we're losing our rights. I mean, we just saw Sean Foyt, a Christian worship leader, get completely destroyed by our government here. The church that hosted them was even fined just over $2,000, which is insane. And things like that alone just prove that we do not live in a free country. So that is our one thing here. And also I noticed one individual person that we did talk to there said that Alberta does not pay equalization payments to Quebec. And immediately, again, I realized some of these people don't even understand how our country works. So they're not really able to think properly, I guess, and then have the right ideas to put forward when it comes to even voting for if Alberta should stay or go.
You know,
hey
somebody
guys,
voted.
I burst in, and I apologize for interrupting, but we have the first results. It's not a lot, but so far, slightly less than 500 ballots have been counted, and 89.9% are for Pierre Poilievre. In second place is the Andrew Coyne lookalike, U-Haul driving, valor stealing, recent arrival from British Columbia, Bonnie Critchley, with 4.5%. So it looks like I'm on track to win my bet that she would get single digits. In third place with 2.3%, a respectable showing for the Liberals in this riding, Darcy Spady, and I would like to congratulate him for doing much better than I thought he would do.
Me too.
And Catherine Swampy, 9 votes. I think she will break double digits before the night is out.
Exciting.
And then the United Party, the Green Party, the People's Party, and then a bunch of, actually so far, not a single one of the fake candidates. They didn't even vote for themselves? Pardon me?
Wow. They didn't even vote for themselves?
No, because they don't live in the riding.
That's right.
They don't live in the riding. They have no connection whatsoever. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to let you know, and I'm just going to quickly hit refresh. So the grand total is 486 votes. It's one poll out of 286. So it could still be a huge night for Bonnie Critchley. Don't write off that dark horse. I think she's, you know what? How can the Toronto Star, the Tyee, the CBC all be wrong? They see something special in that lady.
They do.
And I should not write her off, although I am betting heavily against her. Back to you, Angelica. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries, Elijah. Thank you so much. And I do lastly just want to finish off by saying, if you haven't yet, purchase your Alberta First t-shirts.
Nice.
They're on our Rebel News store. Awesome t-shirt. Of course, if you support Alberta independence.
Or just Alberta autonomy. You don't have to be a sovereigntist to buy one of those Alberta First shirts. It's rebelnewsstore.com. Very clever, Angelica, getting in a store plug there. From what I understand, 14,000 people cast ballots in advanced polls in the riding, which has 86,000 eligible voters. That feels high for a by-election in advanced poll turnout, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just sensing that wrong. Going back to your video, Angelica, something I noticed from the people who were gathered round to sign the petition to gather 300,000 signatures in 90 days as opposed to 170-ish thousand in 120 days because Lukaszuk filed a day early. They all were of a certain vintage. And I say this with kindness, approaching that vintage. But they are all sort of getting towards boomerish. They have a very strong public sector retiree feel about them. I feel like they're the kind of people who bought their house for a wooden nickel and a moon pie, and so they're just fine now. And so that they feel that Canada is perfectly fine. And if their grandkids don't get a job, well, that's not their problem. That was what I got from that video.
This is what I got. I wrote down retired public sector boomers on pensions that are impervious to the overreaches of the government. These are people that have suffered none of the consequences of a bad government in the last 10 years. None at all. They're also probably highly addicted to the mainstream media and just consume a barrage of left-leaning journalism. That's probably who we were dealing with the entire time. But make no mistake, our urban centers are absolutely stuffed with these people, like really, really stuffed, which makes tonight's election results so interesting because it is not an urban area. So you're going to see like tonight's results are going to be a report card on how the Conservative Party is doing in rural areas. And we know that there is just a staggering disparity between urban values and opinions and rural opinions and values.
Yeah. And this is just a largely rural riding. Even the cities are small. Camrose is a small city. Tofield is a small city. Stettler is a small city. There's none of that Calgary nonsense getting at them. Angelica, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for jumping on, helping us kill a little bit of time. It's always nice to talk to you.
Thank you, guys.
And very entrepreneurial of you to put on that shirt and plug the store. Very good. Nicely done, young lady. We'll talk
Have a good night, guys.
Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Hey, I got some breaking news. I got some extremely important news. I have just seen the latest results. I'm sorry to stop the conversation. I've just got to share this with you. The Liberal Party of Canada,
Darcy Spady,
has 39 votes, which is 3.3%. And I want to let you know that they had 11.67% under Justin Trudeau. In other words,
doing poorly.
Justin P.J. Trudeau is 3 to 4 times more popular than Mark Carney in Alberta. I now return you to your regular programming. I just wanted to let you know that the Liberals have fallen by 3/4 under the steady leadership of oligarch with 3 passports, Mark Carney. Okay, back to you.
Okay, well, it looks like Darcy Spady, actually, he's up to 43, which says to me that he just has a large extended family. That's all it means to me. When I see those numbers, I'm like, good for him. He's got lots of cousins.
Not a single one of the fake candidates has more than 1 vote. In fact, the vast majority have 0 votes. And if you're curious, Pierre Poilievre has 87%, which is up from Damien Carrick's 82.84%. So Damien Carrick, the Conservative who won several months ago, got, let's round it up, 83%. Pierre Poilievre smashing that.
So 87%. Early numbers, but that's also 1 point higher than when Damien took the riding in 2019. After, his name escapes me. The previous MP there who retired, he was also at the, who was it? Ezra.
Not Jack Ramsey. Oh, and not the successor to Jack Ramsey, whose name temporarily escapes me. I'm an old timer. Last time I was out there, Jack Ramsey was the MP, so I'm dating myself. That's more than 20 years ago now. Yeah. That's about as good as it gets in terms of if I had to flee the zombie apocalypse and go live in a safe place, I would choose Crowfoot.
Kevin Sorensen.
That's who. Thank you.
That's who it was. Kevin Sorensen retired. Damien Carrick took over. Yes. That was when all the youngsters came. The Shannon Stubbs types all sort of swept into power in 2015. Anywho,
let me interrupt one more time. I have incredibly important news. Mm-hmm. It is an exact tie between the NDP and the United Party of Canada. They each have 18 votes. They have 18 votes, people.
Well, it's going to be hard for Catherine Swampy to get all of her friends and family to vote in this riding because she doesn't live in the riding. She lives in Wetaskiwin. I'll stop
interrupting with this breaking news, but Pierre Poilievre maintains 87.1%. A disappointing result for the CBC. Bonnie Critchley, way back with 6.1%, but I will say I'm starting to feel a little bit of a tingle. I could be at risk for my bet that she's going to wind up with single digits. How can that be, given that the CBC showed her such tender affections? Perhaps the CBC cannot vote in this riding either. Anyways, I see our next guest is on deck.
Yes, our next guest is convoy lawyer Keith Wilson. Keith, thanks for joining us. And honestly, I'll be straight with you. You're helping us kill some time here as we wait for these hand-counted ballots to come in. So everything is right in. Before we get going, what are your predictions for this riding? Is Bonnie Critchley going to surprise us all? Oh, you're muted.
There you go. How's that?
Perfect. Better. Let us have it.
I got to be candid. It just doesn't matter.
Right.
This is the problem we have in Canada right now. Yeah. What happens tonight, short of, Poilievre not winning or just winning with like 52%, all the problems that we had last year in Canada, and all the problems we had last week in Canada, and all the problems we are going to have next weekend in the balance of the year, we're still going to have. And the reason I say that is the opposition has been very ineffective. We've had minority governments for the longest period of Canadian history. We have had minority governments in the past throughout the history of our country, but not for this long. Carney's ruling like he's the leader with a majority, right. And he's not. He's got a minority government, and he's had a minority government since April. So what's going to change? Poilievre is going to destroy him in the House of Commons.
But he did that to Trudeau.
Pardon me?
But he also did that to Trudeau, and it didn't make much of a difference, did it?
Correct. And Carney's going to be so much worse. Like, he's terrible on his feet, just terrible on his feet.
It's bad.
In terms of being able to respond quickly. And he says this, he's always thanking people for things when he shouldn't be saying thank you. And he's just really awkward. I'm sure he was that geeky guy in junior high and elementary school, but whatever. More importantly, so Carney will just avoid the House of Commons question period, as much as he can. He'll be doing important work for making us the most European, non-European country possible, things like that. So my concern is that, and so, well, why is it that we can have minority governments for so long? It's because in order for the opposition, the Conservatives, to take down the government in a non-confidence vote, they need the support of either the Bloc Québécois in Quebec, which marched to a completely different drummer with a completely different set of values and objectives, or the NDP. Good luck with that. So what this reflects to me is this serious dysfunction that Canada's facing. I really believe the only hope for people outside of Alberta and Saskatchewan having the Canada back that they loved and were raised in and have fond memories about is going to be, and you probably, I don't know if you guys had a pool as to how long it was before I came on, before I said the word independence or separatism. There you go. I said it. That's my view, is that as I said, you guys had me on your show last week, and I expressed candidly that I feel bad for Pierre Poilievre, because it just seems he can't win. If he says what he needs to say to get votes in Quebec, he's going to lose votes in the other parts of the country and possibly even Ontario. If he says what he needs to say to appease the people in Ontario, he's going to alienate the West. And, we could do all the other permutations.
I was just thinking about the grossest thing I saw today, Keith, and it was Doug Ford, the Conservative in name only from Ontario. And he was asked what his advice would be for Pierre Poilievre. And you guys in the studio have that teed up. Like, by the way, Pierre Poilievre has a title, Leader of the Opposition, or His Majesty's Loyal Opposition. His job is to oppose. The whole system depends on it. Here's what Doug Ford had to say that he thought Poilievre should do. Take a listen.
Premier, today is Pierre Poilievre's by-election. If he gets elected, I'm wondering, what's your advice to him going into the fall sitting of the Parliament?
Work with the Prime Minister.
How so?
Let's team Canada. Let's put our political stripes aside and start working together collectively on large infrastructure projects, on other areas that he can cooperate with the government.
Last question. Would you have plans to meet with Poilievre to push that message and make sure that he is working with the Prime Minister?
All I want to do is move forward collectively as a government. I don't care about political stripes. The person I'm working with right now is the Prime Minister of the day. And as far as I'm concerned, he's doing a really, really good job considering the position he's been put in. I challenge anyone to try to deal with Donald Trump, myself included. He's a different type of cat. But we're united. We know what we need to do. And we know that we need to cut the regulatory burdens off of companies, lower taxes, put money back into people's pockets, support companies that need investment to grow and expand here. And onshore, the procurement side, it's absolutely critical.
So his number one piece of advice for Pierre Poilievre is stop being so disagreeable, stop opposing, stop disagreement, agree with Mark Carney, do what he says. And he had some comments earlier about how Donald Trump is the worst. I do not understand what Doug Ford is trying to do. He opposed Pierre Poilievre during the election. He throws these weird tantrums against Donald Trump, and I'm not saying Canadians have to love Donald Trump, but I just don't understand what he's up to. But if that is our ally, if that is Alberta's ally in Canada, we're hooped.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's your great conservative? Oh my God, I'm deeply embarrassed. I wish that Rob Ford were still around. Now, there's a man I would vote for.
Thank you. Yes, because at least we had an explanation for the crazy things that Rob said, right? Like we had an actual explanation for them. But Doug, like, explain it to me like I'm 5. What, like, can we agree that no matter what Doug Ford says in his era right now, in his off the rails era, that we should do the exact opposite? Like, Doug Ford is telling Pierre Poilievre to make amends with the federal government, just play along, just be a buddy to the federal government. Like, Keith Wilson, would there be any value in Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives having an understanding with the bloc in Quebec to work as co-conspirators against the federal government? Would there be any value in that?
Well, I think there would be, but it takes, as we know, it takes 2 to tango. Right. And the challenge that Poilievre has is that the bloc doesn't want to play. Right? They beat to their own drummer, and they're singly focused on Quebec and whatever in Quebec's interests. So they would, in return for that, they would seek to extort concessions or promises or commitments, I suspect, from Poilievre. Yeah, that money, our money, taxpayers' money at a minimum, and most likely Albertans' hardworking money. So that's the problem we have. I think, well, you guys know my view. I just think Canada is structurally, culturally broken.
Yeah. Going back to Doug Ford there, he says this after the U.S. ambassador comes out last week and says, this nonsense, this adversarial nonsense, this calling Trump names, this picking fights in the media with us doesn't get you anywhere with Trump. And so what does Ford do? Walk right out and say that, Trump's crazy and hard to deal with, and you should just get along with Mark Carney. Instead of saying, I wonder which premier is the one that got away largely unscathed in this mess. And it's the one that didn't run her yap about Donald Trump, and instead reached out to the Republicans, goes on the shows that she knows they watch, heads to Mar-a-Lago, gets called a traitor for it, doesn't capitulate. Who appointed Doug Ford, the foreign affairs minister of this country, when he has had absolutely zero big fat goose egg success in dealing with the Americans? I just don't understand it. It's like he wants the economy to tank. I don't understand the logic.
Oh no, because Ontario industry is the thing that's suffering greatest under the existing tariffs with Trump. So not only does Doug's approach or strategy not work in this circumstance, but Carney's doesn't either. These two being aligned, being buddy-buddy, is not serving the people of Canada. There was a meeting today in the White House with all of the NATO nations, except for Mark Carney and Canada weren't invited. They weren't invited to talk about Ukraine, who we've shoveled billions of dollars at. We weren't even invited to attend. So no, their strategy is not working on the Americans. As a matter of fact, it's blowing up in their faces, and sort of deservedly so.
Well, maybe that's the answer. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, let me shine a light on something here that I never knew till a couple of years ago, and it blew me away when I heard it, because it explains a lot of things, like what happened today. I was invited to participate in a business leader industry conference. It had that, forget the name of those rules, Chatham House rules. Mm-hmm. So you kind of, you could have candid discussion. So I won't breach it. But they had a presenter who was a very serious, credible pollster, not one of these psyops we keep seeing from the usual suspects. And this weird phenomena was identified that whenever, so this would have been during Trudeau's day, Justin Trudeau's day, whenever Doug Ford was at a photo op together with Trudeau, both Trudeau and Ford's numbers went up. And if you think back over the last few years, the number of times you'd see the two of them together at some frigging announcement. Right. So Carney's in trouble today because of the embarrassment of him not getting invited to Washington and being completely ignored. For all of his complete failures to deliver, he looks weak. So they go to two of their go-to things. One is they have Ford show up in his office, try and get the regalia of that very poorly decorated, cold, sterile PMO. And And the other thing they do, their go-to when they're in trouble, is they go LGBTQ plus or pride, right? Whenever Trudeau was really in trouble and he needed to create a distraction to one of his failures, he would announce $30 million for LGBT plus for Africa. Because he knew reasonable people would go, what are you talking about? We don't have $30 million of ID.
It's so interesting.
What flag did they just change out?
Well, and CSIS today, our National Intelligence Agency, just posted about their ever-loving, their commitment to pride and LGBTQIA initiatives in Canada. It is so interesting that you bring that up.
I would like them to
commit to it's like shiny object, right? Shiny object. Shiny object. Oh, they're figuring out how terrible Canadians are starting to understand how bad of a leader Carney is. His team in the Privy Council office there go, all right, let's throw up some shiny objects. So there'll probably be an announcement this week on gun confiscation. Then there's going to be an announcement about abortion. And if there is an announcement about abortion, you're really in trouble, because that's always their go-to as well, right? Is to distract from their own failings.
I'm like, why can't these people keep our elections secure from the Chinese? And they're like, let's bring in the two-spirit hoop dancer for Pride season. What the heck?
There's one more darker reason. You're so right. It's about changing the channel. Doug Ford calculated what is the stupidest thing I can say and get away with it that'll switch the channel from Mark Carney not being down in Washington. But there is one other reason. A recession is coming to Canada. In fact, depends on how you measure it. On a per capita basis, we've been in recession for years. We're all losing ground. We're getting poorer. And it's not just the tariffs, that's the latest thing. Housing is sagging, even though immigration is higher than ever. Like, there's a lot of bad things happening. And so who's going to wear that? Well, normally it would be the incumbents. But you throw in the Trump, and what you've done is you now have a scapegoat. Oh, no, the economy isn't bad because of Mark Carney or Doug Ford. No, are you kidding me? We all know Trump's what did it. So I think the antagonizing of Trump is deliberate. They're setting up a scapegoat. You know what? I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we did dig up what I think was one of Rob Ford's best videos. And this can only be done by someone genuine. I want to show about a minute of Rob Ford when he was a city councillor. And by the way, a city councillor in Toronto is a pretty big job.
Sure. It's bigger than Alberta.
And what you're about to see is a flawed man. We know now he had many problems and many flaws, but he had an inner compass. He had an inner code, a morality, an ethic. He was like Ralph Klein in that way. He had a common sense and instinctive to be with the people. And let me show you the man who I wish were around, and I wish were Premier of Ontario. The wrong Ford is Premier. Take a look at Rob. Take a look.
I've got all the free passes for councillors. I call them free perks that are tax-free, which is costing the taxpayers millions of dollars. So let's start off. Free zoo pass. Toronto Zoo VIP pass. The VIP named on this card and his or her family will be granted parking, admission, and rides at the Toronto Zoo without charge. I can bring everybody in my family here to the zoo for free. The average person has to pay $15, $20 to get in, $10 or $15 to park, $5 or $10 a ride. The poor average family is paying $200. Councillors that are paying, getting paid $100,000 get to get in for free. It's absolutely wrong. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's get on to some other stuff here. Metro passes. Here's a Metro pass. This is equivalent to $1,300 a year. Again, councillors make $100,000 a year. I take home $1,400 a week net. Why should councillors get a free Metro pass? The TTC's dying for money. We've just increased fares 25 cents. The average person out there, the poor working student or the poor working senior that has to get out there and get on the bus every day has to pay $3. But we, the councillors, get on the bus for free. This should be eliminated immediately. The parking passes. Parking. We can go to any parking lot in the city of Toronto and park for free.
Can you believe that?
Be it Friday night, Saturday night. And all the councillors say is, oh, well, we're doing city business. Well, when I ask, what time are these passes being used at, or what day are these passes being used at, they aren't going to give me that information. But it's taxpayers' money, years and years and years of parking passes. So when the average person has to go to Rogers Centre to watch a Blue Jay game, or go to the theatre on King Street, or go out for dinner, they have to pay $20 or $25. Councillors get to park for free. This is absolutely wrong. This should be eliminated immediately. Let's move on. Exhibition. Exhibition, we get in the X when it's on for free. We get the park for free. The average person, you go to the X during August and September, costs $10, $15 to get in. Parking's $10, $15. Councillors who get paid $100,000 a year get to go in for free and bring their family in for free. How's that right? The taxpayers are paying for that too. Conservation passes. So if you want to go up to Algonquin Park, or go to a park in the summer, or go camping, you have to pay $30, $40 to get in to the campgrounds. Not councillors. Councillors.
This goes on. I mean, I'm loving this. I don't know if you guys want to cut it short. He goes on at some length, from the heart, and this was the realest guy you'd ever meet. And he coached football as a volunteer, and he did so many real things. He was a great man, and his shitty brother is the premier in large part because of Rob's reputation. Had Rob not been a councillor and then mayor, Doug Ford would not have won. Doug Ford lacks the honesty and the moral fiber of Rob, and I say that knowing that Rob had substance abuse problems. You know who that hurt? Himself. Yeah. Rob Ford didn't steal a dollar. He didn't wring out money. You saw what he was like there. But his thuggish brother became premier on the reputation of Rob. And that is a cruel twist of fate. The wrong Ford brother is premier.
Yeah, and we watched Doug suck up to the same media in Toronto that hassled and bullied and followed his brother right into the grave. I'll never forget them harassing Rob as he tried to take his kids to school, and then after Rob died, just crowding onto his lawn, Rob's kids having to run the gauntlet of media. And these are the same media vultures now that Doug sucks up to every time he kisses Carney's butt.
Yeah. Well, let me give you an update from the stats here. 85.7% for Pierre Poilievre. Again, that is 3% higher than Damien Carrick got earlier this year. In terms of the number of votes counted, 20 out of 286 polls are reporting that's 7%. So it's still early days, but who's kidding whom? It's going to be between 80 and 90% for Pierre Poilievre. The great hope of the CBC, Bonnie Critchley, the Stolen Valor parachute candidate, is at 6.6%. The Liberal getting higher, 3.2%. Again, far back from Trudeau's 11.6%. I think we know how tonight is going to go. Unfortunately for the CBC, their narrative of Bonnie Critchley, giant killer, isn't coming true just yet. But, I'm sure they're still hoping against hope.
Yeah, and it seems as though maybe 10 of the longest ballot committee candidates have even had ballots cast for them. Because I think that Sarah Spanier, she was on the debate stage as an independent.
Yes, she was.
So,
yeah, she was.
And she got 4 votes.
She got 4.
Well, that's pretty respectable. 4 votes.
Same as the marijuana party.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, tying with the marijuana party. Yeah.
Ezra, can I go back to something you said before we were talking about Rob Ford?
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been puzzled about is when I look at Venezuela, a once prosperous country, huge oil reserves, built up infrastructure, refineries, production capabilities, pipeline systems, all that. And then socialism comes with Chavez and now Maduro. Hyperinflation, cost of living, poverty, devaluation of their dollar in the extreme, collapsing of their infrastructure, leaking pipelines, refineries that can't run, wells that can't pump. And I was wondering, how is it possible with those cold, hard facts and the millions of people that are suffering under that system that they could still support it? So I was doing some research, and I was trying to research what the views are and the position is of people who continue to support their socialist experiment. And the number one reason for their driver, some was the sense of helping the poor and concern about inequality, but the number one belief was that the socialist system wasn't working because of the sanctions and the bad policies from the United States of America. Right? So when I look at what Carney's doing and how he's antagonizing the United States, for example, when he announced support, $10 million worth of support for the Palestinian Authority to move towards independence and statehood, I guess he'll have no problem whatsoever if and when the Trump administration sends $10 million to the Alberta Prosperity Project to help Alberta move towards independence and statehood, seeing as he's now set that precedent. And then more seriously announcing the next week, Carney did, that he's going to unilaterally in September at the United Nations General Assembly recognize the independent state of Palestine right before the night before the deadline for the trade deal with the U.S. to antagonize when Trump was pushing hard for a ceasefire, some kind of resolution of that terrible crisis. So, and then you get Ford doing what he did on CNN, knowing full well, this is not Ford's first day on the job. He knew full well that Trump was going to see that, and he poked him in the eye. And my cynical theory is, one theory is it's just pure incompetence all the way around with Carney and Ford. Another theory is they realize how bad things are getting and how bad things are going to get economically and socially in Canada, in Ontario and in Canada. And they need a scapegoat, and they need one now. So Trump, orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad, which creates a very interesting question is what position is Poilievre going to take? Is he going to take the position that it's not Trump's fault and that these are made in Canada problems and that Carney and the Carney Liberals and the Doug Ford, and I hate using the word conservative, I'll just say the Doug Ford political party, own it? Or is he going to sort of play in on this anti-American, anti-Trump sentiment too? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, that's the dilemma that cost Poilievre the election, I believe.
Agreed. Yes.
He couldn't credibly oppose Trump because people, you're faking it because you're Trump-like in so many ways. And he couldn't truly anyways because some of his base would say, what are you doing? Why are you trying to out-liberal the Liberals? I think that's why he lost. My theory is, had he chosen his own controversy to change the subject, and in my view that's a zero immigration, remigration approach, that would have been so shocking and repulsive to the mainstream media, they would have focused on that. But just like transgender issues, which are universally supported by the regime, but universally detested by ordinary people, it would have backfired on the regime. Had Pierre Poilievre said, no, I don't want to talk about that controversy. I want to talk about this controversy, which is a realer one. So many of the problems in Canada are from mass migration. But if you allow the Doug Ford, Mark Carney Liberals to make the ballot question about Trump, Conservatives are going to lose every time. Happened in Australia as well. And I don't understand why Trump meddled the way he did. Baffles me. But he did. Anyway, we'll see. I mean, Poilievre has made a lot of strides on the immigration issue since the election, which isn't as helpful as had he done it before the election. But I think he's starting to focus on that issue because I think and by the way, overseas, that issue has gone wild. In the United Kingdom, every day there are hundreds of people marching spontaneously outside those migrant hotels. They've had it over there, and I think that might spread to Canada in time. Anyway, that's a bit of a rambling answer. Sheila, should we go through some of them super chats? I'm not sure if we touched on them all.
We have not, but I think it's our next guest will be coming momentarily. So why don't we go to our chats while we say goodbye to Keith and thank him so much for giving us a half an hour of his time and analysis about the by-election. Keith, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, Keith. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to some of these chats. We've got Ripsa Fairy Boy, I think that's what I'm supposed to be saying. 279, Free Canada, the pineapple in my riding is a dork. Okay. Cicely Bardwell gives us $20, and we know Cicely, she's a regular contributor to our Rebel News daily live streams on the Roundup. She says, looks like no one is using the long ballot. I think that's good news. No one can use the long ballot because it's 7 feet long, and Elections Canada said, well, we're just not going to print it. So everybody has to write in. We're going to punt 200 fake candidates off the ballot. We don't want to do that. We don't want to print the ballot. So now all of you have to learn how to spell Poilievre, when a lot of people have trouble saying it. So I guess that's that question. Deborah Price gives us $13.99. I don't see a chat, but thank you so much. And another $13.99. Also no chat. Deborah, if you meant to chat me, if you meant to send me a message, please write it and I'll have somebody go looking for it. Scotty Mo 21 gives us $5, and he says the Conservative Party is no friend to Alberta. I would only vote for a candidate whose party supports Alberta's right to vote for its independence. I'm sure PRP will win this by-election, though. I think your question or your sentiment is probably right. However, the Conservative Party of Canada has they're federalist, right? But they have also not said we disagree with Albertans having the right to ask this question, which is, I think, all you want from a party. Really.
Sure. It's the best you can hope for. They can hardly say the other, right? But they can't ignore it. They can't afford to ignore it either. So
yes,
they're walking a fine line right now.
Exactly. So is Danielle Smith. I mean, she's said, look, I'm a federalist and I don't know how you could be a premier within Confederation and say something otherwise, but she's also not standing in the way of us having our say. And I think
but then again, Sheila Gunn Reid, Quebec has had premiers that have said so what is, and I'm applying Quebec rules to all of us now, okay? Right. I want to popularize everything that made Quebec get in the position that it's in now, which is in a highly powerful position. They use the notwithstanding clause with wild abandon, and they consistently threaten to leave. And that's how they got to where they are today, in a much better position than either Alberta or Saskatchewan, or the both of us combined.
All right. I'll read the rest of these chats later because I see our guest is waiting in the wings. People confuse us for each other, this guest and I. It's happened to me more than once. And I like when we're in the same place at the same time, because then people are like, oh, you're different. Okay. You both like small government and hate taxes. Yep. I can see, dark hair. I get it. But it's Chris Sims. She's the Alberta director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. This is the second time today I'm talking to her. But it's still not enough. Chris, how's it going? She's the guest on the Gun Show this week, which I pre-recorded earlier in the day. Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show. Predictions for the by-election. Is Poilievre going to come in with a greater share of the vote than Keurig did just a couple of months ago?
See, I don't know, because by-elections routinely have lower turnout. And also, I've known Pierre Poilievre for like 25 years, and I still have to stop my pen and think while I'm writing his last name. So, sorry. It's one of those funny things of like, I like Evie, or like, it's a funny thing. So between those two things, I think it may be a little bit lower. I'm guessing it's going to be just a touch over 80. I'm not predicting a 7 in there. So I'm guessing I'm going to go with probably an 81 is where I think he's probably going to land with that.
So 84.
Yep.
84% right now, so that's fair enough.
Have they counted like the booming metropolises within this riding yet? Do we know?
What you talking about? Camrose?
Yes. Stettler. My cousin lives in Stettler. She worked at the Home Hardware there for years. That place has got a bumping downtown.
So, what? Poilievre gets elected. Of course, he's going to get elected. What's the first thing he needs to talk about in the House of Commons? Because I'm sure at the Taxpayers Federation, I'm sure you've got a long list. But what's right at the top of yours?
Laundry list for him. I think the first thing he's going to do is going to be what's called the EV mandate, what we are better calling the ban on the sale of normal gasoline and diesel powered vehicles, because Prime Minister Mark Carney has bought into this lunatic idea that they can tell people what kind of vehicle they should drive in Canada. And the big part for the Taxpayers Federation, while we're fighting it, is because it's going to break the bank. It's going to cost an arm and a leg. Even Natural Resources Canada itself, like the federal government itself, says this is going to cost us $300 billion-ish. No big deal. The problem there is that we have unmoney. So we are so deeply in debt right now that we are just burning through hospitals worth of interest payments on this thing. So I did hear Poilievre say that he wants to make this, I think he called it a campaign, which is interesting. That's more of what an advocacy group would call something. So it sounds like that's going to be the first thing, is killing the so-called EV mandate and freeing people up from that.
Well, that's a marketing campaign is what it is, because it would have a wide appeal. When you're talking about taking away Canadians' freedom to travel where they want and when they want, whether it be for work or whether it be for pleasure. And a great many Canadians have to drive very, very long distances to work, especially our blue class brothers and sisters and our people in rural areas. And this is going to be a widely accepted marketing campaign by the Conservatives. It's sort of a big tent issue. Everybody can relate to this, not wanting to have their freedoms limited by this insane net zero sustainability green EV baloney initiative by the federal government, right? So I think that it's a good starter for him to bring that up first. But then he must hit like a hammer, like Danielle Smith, like Donald Trump, one thing after another, until the people of Canada wake up and go, right, Mark Carney is not going to solve any of our problems. As a matter of fact, he's going to make them worse. And we really need to get a Conservative government in there.
So I think what's happened is that the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was such a flaming disaster, like fiscally illiterate, like worst Prime Minister we've ever had. Bar none.
Numerically dyslexic.
Yeah, like he literally said, like, forgive me if I don't think about monetary policy, and then he has trouble. Like, no, I can't forgive you because you're the Prime Minister and you have doubled the national debt. Like, doubled it without even breaking a sweat. And before folks start saying, oh, well, he tried because it was COVID. No, folks. In 2019, okay, before anything happened, before the wave hit Canada, there were no aliens invading, okay? Sasquatch was not running amok, okay? The federal government spent more money in the fiscal year 2019 than in any one year of the Second World War, adjusted for population plus inflation. That was Trudeau's fiscal policy, okay? It was a disaster. Now, that's not even touching on all the social stuff that you ladies cover so well. Just from a fiscal standpoint, it was a disaster. Quickly, carbon tax. Okay, the so-called consumer-facing carbon tax, which is actually technically now gone. We're very happy to see that, okay? Credit to the tax fighters out there. You even made Mark Carney, who wrote this book while he was the UN Special Envoy, okay, on this topic. You made this dude cry uncle and blank on the carbon tax. The Trudeau government collected more than $40 billion from Canadians in the carbon tax, not including the huge provinces of Quebec and BC. So we're really just talking the screwed over prairie provinces plus Ontario, 40 billion plus. Fun fact, you would be able to buy over 700 big water bomber planes for that amount of money. I don't see them. I'm not sure if I missed them on the tarmac. So the point here is that it has just been a disaster. So what I think has happened here is because, Pierre Poilievre does not have his seat right now. We'll wait to see what happens tonight. And we're in the middle of the summer. House isn't sitting. People are in kind of a honeymoon phase, not really paying attention. It's like having an elastic band that's been cutting off the circulation to your hand, suddenly cut off with Trudeau gone. And it's like, oh, wow, he's not brutally embarrassing anymore. That's an improvement. My circulation's coming back into my hand. I think that's the phenomenon we're seeing right now. So what we would like to see Pierre Poilievre do if he wins his seat and he takes his official position as a matter of the majesty of leaders opposition is get rid of the so-called EV mandate we call the gas and diesel vehicle ban, stop the industrial carbon tax, and stop the censorship industrial complex that is growing across Canada. Get those three things done.
Perfect. Yes. Can you email him directly right now? We'll give you a minute.
We frequently yell at him. To be fair, he is saying all of those things. He's promising to do all those things. Oh, and he's promising to shut down the gun grab, which I was listening to your earlier guest. That's all I'm hearing too. A lot of rumbling saying they're going to be hauling out some of these issues, including the gun confiscation. I don't call it the gun buyback because I did not purchase my firearm from the government. Right. It's the gun confiscation. They're going to be rolling that out as well. So as long as Pierre Poilievre keeps on fighting on those things, I think that things are going to shore up pretty quickly in the fall.
So how would we then, if Pierre Poilievre made all of those changes, how would we make sure that the laws would be applied and not challenged as a Section 7 charter violation, as the activist classes are wont to do? So we've seen our public judiciary in Canada be overtaken by some pretty ideological justices, we'll say. As a matter of fact, a Macdonald Laurier Institute report said that, over 90% of rulings by judges when there's a Section 7 charter violation leveled at a provincial government, 90% of judges will land on the side of the interveners. P.S. They also divulge that over 25 million Canadian taxpayer dollars have been spent getting sent to left-wing interveners in charter challenges. How do you think Pierre Poilievre could get his legislation through without having the courts overturn it as a charter violation? How would you do that?
They'll try, and they will. And we've got a former colleague, Christine Van Gyn, brilliant constitutional lawyer. She's now over the Canadian Constitution Foundation. I know she's a frequent guest. It was her team, along with one other group, that successfully got the federal court justice to rule that it was wrong for the Trudeau government to invoke the Emergencies Act. And then it was wrong for the federal government under Trudeau to freeze people's bank accounts. And so we were totally opposed to the Emergencies Act, especially with the whole freezing of the bank account thing, because if you stifle somebody's ability to peacefully assemble and to peacefully express themselves, you can't have true grassroots advocacy in this country. You can't do things like handing out golden pig statues and mocking politicians all the time and holding big rallies. And so you can't silence those voices. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we've seen instances across Canada, at least provincially, where they use the notwithstanding clause.
Right.
Because those are the folks, frankly, those are the folks who are elected. You are elected to legislate and write laws. We don't elect judges in this country yet. So go ahead and use the functions that are there. I'm not the constitutional expert, but I know Christine Van Gyn's got a lot of thoughts on that one.
Interesting. Well, there are options for him. In any case, there are options.
Now, I wanted to quickly point out, if I don't mind, while we're waiting for numbers to come in, I'm super tempted to go check myself, but I'll promising
read them out.
I'm hoping you guys all read them out. Interrupt me when you're ready. I wanted to point out quickly on the Doug Ford thing. The amount of money that he is piling onto the debt is just absolutely disgusting in Ontario. Okay. Doug Ford, the premier, likes to talk a big game about being out there for the little guy and wanting to be small government and grassrootsy. Okay, that's nonsense. Number one, he gave everybody a huge fat raise, including himself. Okay, that just happened. Taxpayers' expense. Didn't notice him campaigning on that on the hustings. Two, the debt is so bad there right now, provincially. the provincial Ontario debt is so bad right now that it is costing Ontario taxpayers $300 million a week just in the interest payments. I know, Lisa, I heard you gasp.
So that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money.
It's a disgusting amount of money. So picture this, okay? So an average Ontario home, sorry, Ezra, you should move home, but the average Ontario home right now costs around $1 million-ish, okay? All the way up to the super swanky stuff in downtown Toronto and the stuff more on the outskirts, say outside of London, Ontario. If you mix it all in a bucket, for argument's sake, say that it's about $1 million. Okay, the debt interest costs just for the Ontario provincial debt, picture 300 homes, burn them down every week. That's the cost of the debt. That's under a so-called conservative government. So they got to pull their socks up. Oh, quickly, because this annoys me to heck. Sheila and I were talking about this earlier today. Doug Ford's government charges a PST on used cars. So you're one of those working stiffs. You're out there. You're scraping together a few $1,000 for a used Toyota Corolla. Get to work, right? To commute.
You're a kid trying to get to work. Yeah.
Trying to afford your first car. Maybe it's from the late 90s, early 2000s. The sucker's more than 20 years old. Doug Ford's right there with his hand out, and he's taking his chunk in PST for the little guy.
Over and over every time a car is bought or sold in Ontario, right? So they're making that over and over and over and over.
That's right. Not to rub it in or anything, but where Sheila and I are sitting, Ezra, you should come home. Where Sheila and I are sitting, there is no PST. Yeah. So, you know, Danielle Smith is not charging us a PST on used car. If we did have one, we'd be fighting it right now.
Sure. When Lisa and I hit the local Goodwill, our buck goes a little further. I know Ezra's trying to skedaddle. He's had a long day.
Oh, fine. He doesn't want to take my abuse.
No, it's fine. It's not
you're
abuse.
Making me think of
prompting.
You make me think of something that Keith Wilson said, which is, I mean, it's fun to watch the results. Poilievre at 83.5%, which is around where Damien Keurig was earlier this year. The great CBC Hope still in single digits, but really doesn't matter because Mark Carney is pretty close to a majority, but he can act like he has one because the rump NDP and Bloc will support him every step of the way. And every problem we have will get worse over time, exacerbated by the fact that Mark Carney is not a Trump whisperer. Immigration is not slowing down, despite his promise to do so. We're heading into a recession. A fella could be black-pilled, as the kids say. I want to keep hope alive. I want to stay positive. But, Pierre Poilievre losing in Ontario and having to win again in Alberta is a disappointing, microcosm of the fact that not all parts of Canada love freedom. Not all parts of Canada are sick of the Liberals. Some people, like I drive around some places and I see people still with that elbows up slogan. They love that. They actually think it's working. Or they don't care if it's working. They just love being anti-American. I don't know. It's enough to make a fella despair. But listen, it's great to be part of the live stream. Thank you. I mean, Sheila and Lise, I know I just sort of crashed the party. I know you guys were scheduling. Chris, it's great to see you again.
It's because we're fun. I get it why you want to hang out with us. We're fun.
Well, and you need a white pill,
and
I was a little
Ezra.
bit silly myself. Listen,
no, you need a hug.
You know what? I'm a little depressed. But by the way, thanks. It's great to have the live super chats back again. As you know, we were demonetized by YouTube for such a long time that it's great to have that support. So a special thank you to our viewers. And I'm out east, so I'm going to call it quits. It's almost midnight here, but I look forward to hearing how the rest of the show goes. And thank you, ladies, for carrying the torch high for Rebel News.
Definitely. Okay,
night,
boss.
night,
Good night.
Okay, cheers.
Yeah, it's been. I forget he's 2 hours ahead of us there, so it's like it's almost midnight for him. It's a long day there. But you guys, girls, I want to do some investigation because I remember something that was sort of earlier in the campaign. Or was an internet rumor. And it's astounding that somebody on the prairies had the same name. So it went this way. Guerin Funeral Services had Elsie Joanna Kipp, who passed away at 88. She looks like a lovely lady. She looks like somebody's Ukrainian baba. She is from, I put it in the chat. And this is, bear with me, this is pertaining to Battle River Crowfoot. So this is the obituary of Elsie Kipp. Elsie
Bless
Joanna
her heart.
Kipp.
Look at her. Yeah.
Look, she looks like an absolute delight. You know, she was
Cute.
down at the beauty parlor on Fridays gossiping. That's what she looks like.
Oh,
And
I want to go with her.
I would have listened. Whoever was doing the roller set on her was doing it right. Anyways, and you can send flowers or plant a tree in memory of Elsie Joanna Kipp. She passed away February 27th, 2025. This is probably fresh in the hearts of many people.
Oh.
But
she looks like my grandma, like so much like my grandma, right down to the, oh, sorry, I'm not going to get misty.
No, but yes, okay, I look and she very clearly, I know by her top, she is a very severe Ukrainian lady. And apparently that is the truth. She married into the Kipp family, but she has a very Ukrainian last name otherwise. So this is crazy because there is an Elsie Kipp on the ballot in Battle River Crowfoot. And everyone was like, great, there's a dead lady on the ballot. So it was going around so much. And this is a symptom of the longest ballot committee nonsense, right? Where they're just slapping names down, sign the nomination. Oh, you got your signatures. Oh, you're here, you're on the ballot. So of course it's one lateral step to, oh, you put a dead lady on the ballot.
Right.
That's what you're doing now. And it got so bad that the lady, Elsie Kipp, a BC woman, had to, here's the thing though, because she is sort of caught up in the, like, I'm not from there, but I'm running in the election nonsense.
Oh no.
She's from BC and she's running as a candidate in Alberta's Battle River Crowfoot by-election as part of the longest ballot committee. So she's alive, but she is still nonetheless not a resident of Battle River Crowfoot. And for all intents and purposes, I would rather vote for the dead lady because at least she's not trying to game the system and wreck it for everybody. And now I was trying to look, I'm like, Elsie Kipp, let me see who voted for her. And there's too many people for me to check because she's one of the longest ballot committee.
Isn't it alphabetical? Use your power of alphabeticalization. No? Let's look under the K's. Oh, never mind. It's not alphabetical. Oh, it is.
Oh,
wait.
Oh, it is.
Kipp. Nobody. She's got 0 votes from what I can see on the screen.
Oh, good. I wouldn't want someone to have mistakenly voted for that nice Ukrainian grandma.
But how
ridiculous this election is.
How embarrassing that you would have to come out to the media and be like, no, really, I'm alive.
I'm alive, but I'm still trying to screw over and make a mockery of this election. Don't worry.
Quite embarrassing for me to fess up to.
I would have let people believe I was dead.
Rather than chiming in from BC. Yeah, that's not a good look. That's not a good look. Interesting that they went to a write-in ballot, though. I'd be curious to know. I want to know how many ballots were accidentally spoiled, even though they're handing out all the rat cards. I saw somebody that was using the rat card where they're saying, come vote today, and they've got his name written out, like, in Sharpie. I saw a video today, too, with him spelling his own name, so I'm curious to know how many people tried but failed.
They have a Pierre Poilievre campaign, like a hooked on phonics campaign.
Can we bring up that picture and show Chris? The campaign signs have thus changed in Battle River Crowfoot, where it is a picture of the write-in ballot with, like, this is how you fill it in for Pierre Poilievre. Like, it's a how-to pictogram. That's how badly this election was mismanaged by Elections Canada.
Oh,
look at
my goodness.
Yeah, look at this, Chris. Look at this. So they have lawns. They have a campaign, a how to spell the name campaign. This is what they did. A marketing campaign. It's actually kind of brilliant.
It is smart. That's smart.
It's really
clever.
brilliant.
I'll give it to them.
Because the Conservatives or whoever produced these signs knew that this was going to be a stumbling block and something that, you know, the bad actors would use against the Conservatives. So they had to come up with this. I think it's brilliant and it's adorable and it's totally non-offensive. And maybe a couple more Canadians learned how to spell his name. You know,
Poilievre. Is how you say it in your head.
A Poilievre.
My fingers can't type it at all.
Poilievre. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, Hooked on Phonics works for me. And it'll be real important, right, for the people of Battle River-Crowfoot to know how to spell the next prime minister's name, probably. So this is all very good. It's just a public service. You're welcome.
Further confusing people, when I first met him when we were staffers back a kabillion years ago, I think we were riding pterodactyls to work in Ottawa. He pronounced it Poilievre. Which is why it's funny. Yeah, because if you listen carefully to Andrew Scheer talk sometimes, he still catches himself and he calls him Poilievre. Because everybody around that same age group who were staffers at the same time, and some of them went on to become MPs and the rest of us went back into media. Yeah, maybe he was just too nice to correct us and we were just mispronouncing his name when he had frosted hair.
No,
that sounds entirely...
He Ottawa'd it is what he did.
I think just being like young and a little bit insecure, you know what I mean? Like when you're young, you agree to things that as an older person, you never ever
That's
would.
right.
But
And we were just probably bullying and he just went along with it. And, you know, it's just how it went. And to be fair, like, you know, his parents are Prairie French. Like they would have had the proper pronunciation of the name, I imagine, at home. But when he went to Ottawa, all of us, you know, Anglo kids were calling him Poilievre. So anyway, it's Poilievre. I'm glad people are learning how to spell his name.
I just don't want to find out that he was like that girl that everybody went to high school with and her name was Sharon. And then she like, you see her pronouncing it like Shireen later. And it's like, no, you're Sharon.
It wasn't
Jones,
like that. No.
Okay.
Shannon turning into Shanann.
Exactly.
It wasn't on us. It's on us. It wasn't on him.
Oh,
it was
good.
just a big mispronunciation.
Do you know?
Yeah, Sheila, I actually just answered to your name the other day. I was up when we were going for a book tour with Franco. So this is why it's funny. Sorry, I have to digress because I want to kill time while we're waiting for numbers. So we're literally going to a Taxpayers Federation event. Okay, I'm with Franco Terrazzano with his book that he wrote himself. Like with his pen. We go to the event in Red Deer, and this lady who's a supporter of ours, bless her heart, we would have invited her using the email, Sheila, I'm so happy to see you. I'm like, hi. I just went with it. I'm sorry to impersonate you.
You could do worse, okay?
You know, she was having such a fun time. I didn't want to correct her. I just went with it. And Franco's looking at me, like giving me this hairy eyeball of like, why are you doing this?
To me all the time. You're that girl from the Taxpayers Federation.
You're like close.
I wish.
Near.
Okay.
Near.
Yeah. Close enough.
It's close. Speaking of close, when are we expecting them to go? Who are we? Are we going to officially call it? Has the state broadcaster called it yet? I want to beat them.
Ezra called it before the results started.
Oh, I'm so happy. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So the decision desk called it at about 8:20 local time. Nice. So we're just sort of waiting until Poilievre claims victory. Something says his name.
Yeah, says a thing. Yeah.
But at the end of all of this, how please God put us out of our misery. Okay, so he's dropped
I've got my 81. I'm at my 81.
Oh, yeah, Chris.
Ezra, Bonnie might get to double digits. And then what, Ezra? That's why he left. He didn't want to see Bonnie, whom he compared to Andrew Coyne and Chantal Hébert earlier on the stream. He didn't want to see her get to 10. Double digits, he bailed before. I just want to see Grant Abraham
had some fighting words and then he left.
Yeah. He got depressed. He got down. His blood sugar got low.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, he needs some white pills. Honestly, like he was talking about Ontario, all joking aside, he was talking about Ontario, and when he said all the same problems are going to be there when Pierre Poilievre gets there, and I would say the same thing if it was some other person who was saying he was going to get rid of the industrial carbon tax, get rid of censorship, all these good things. Yeah, all those problems are still going to be there, which is why I think the average working person is going to be like, hey, man, this shine is wearing off this Liberal government pretty darn fast, right? And in Ontario, where Ezra is, they actually got, like, the Conservative Party got a huge bump in their support, percentage-wise, like more than I'd really ever recall seeing it.
In spite of Doug Ford's sabotage,
that's right.
By the way.
That's right. And despite him not, you know, being willing to even help out on the campaign trail, which is a huge thing, and despite the ridiculous internal staffer wars and all that silliness, you know, you shouldn't be holding, you know, tens of millions of people hostage because you're having a little internal fight, right? It's just not fair to normal everyday working people. But to help boost Ezra's mood, I think that because all those same issues will be there, okay, because things like the industrial carbon tax, the censorship, the media payments, the fact people can't afford homes, the fact they're trying to, you know, take away your right to choose what kind of car to buy, all that stuff, that's all still going to be there. And people are still going to get tired of it. And I think they are still going to demand change. And that can either result in two things. One, the minority Liberal government will feel enough pressure to cave on those topics and give us the win. Right? Just like with the carbon tax, it is gone. Okay. That's why gas is 20 cents cheaper per liter on average. It's gone. Okay. So they'll either cave or we'll go to another election. So I'll send Ezra some white pills later.
Please do. Please do. And I love that you had to put on your glasses to just button up the point.
Well, also I needed to see who was coming on next because I saw the window just expand.
It's Sid Fazard. He did some really great journalism when he was in, he just ran into Poilievre on the weekend when he was in the riding. So, Chris, do you want to stick around with us for a bit?
I'll hang out.
Okay, we'll keep you through Sid. And then we'll let you go because it's getting late. It's 10 o'clock and I appreciate you. And I already, although it feels like yesterday, but like 11, 12, 13 hours ago, I talked to you. Your hair is holding up better than mine. I got to tell you that. Sid Fazard, Rebel News journalist, was just in Battle River-Crowfoot. Sid's going to have to turn on his camera. There he is. He was in Battle River-Crowfoot over the weekend to do some streeters, as they say, in the riding. Sid, how's it going? What are your predictions for the election results tonight? Is he going to stay above 80?
I suspect he's probably going to stay above 80. But it was, it was funny. We bumped into him in Drumheller. I was there doing some streeters, trying to talk to people in the riding to see how they feel about Pierre Poilievre coming to town. And then found out that Pierre was going to be in town, so stuck around, and you know, he was able to give me an interview after doing his meet and greet. So that was a good time, and I encourage you guys to check out that full report as well.
So tell us what the people had to say. Are they as offended as Bonnie Critchley that Poilievre has come back home to Alberta to run, or are they fine?
There's definitely a large amount of understanding. There's people that are, of course, in support of the idea for reasons of the fact that, well, now you're going to have a leader of the official opposition being a candidate, soon to be member of parliament for an Alberta riding. So there's hope there that there'll be a spotlight on these issues. And I think the flip side of that, this is a presumption on my part, that Alberta electors are going to hold Poilievre more accountable than perhaps the constituents in Carleton back in Ottawa. That's, you know, the speculation on my part, but that I suspect it's going to go that way.
Yeah, I think Alberta voters expect our Conservatives to be hardline conservative, and that's one of the things that Grant Abraham talked about when we had him on the show to sort of explain some of the points that he was trying to make during the debate, which are probably not something to be made during a debate. And it's that there are different types of conservatives in this country. There are Doug Ford conservatives, which I would not call conservative at all. And then there are Daniel Smith conservatives, and they might share a suffix, but they don't share a lot of the same values. I see Chris nodding along. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm pointing out that you can often call different people different things based on the name of their party. But when it comes down to really tough stuff, like from the taxpayer's perspective, things like fiscal responsibility, fiscal discipline, like that is really like it's a non-breakable thing. And so that is why we are urging Pierre Poilievre, if and when he takes his seat, to keep on urging the government to pay down the debt, to keep fighting the debt, because we are spiraling into a debt crisis. Dan McTagg, I just had him on the show earlier today, and he said that this is actually going to wind up being a worse debt crisis than we had in the early 90s. And if that's the case, Yeah, I hear you. Because you're in Saskatchewan, right?
It was such a mass exodus out of Saskatchewan. If you wanted any opportunity, you were heading to Alberta.
You guys closed 50 rural hospitals.
Yes.
Out of
That was
sheer
under the
pain.
NDP.
Yeah.
The
under
Romano
the
government.
NDP. Yeah.
Well, they ran out of room, to be honest. They ran out of borrowing room. And that was also because of previous governments provincially under Saskatchewan. So they just ran out of space. So much so that international creditors said no more money. It's like one of those scenes from an old movie in the 1940s where the bank teller pulls down the roller and says, go home. So if Dan McTagg is warning that we are spiraling into a worse national debt crisis than then, and he's a smart cookie. So he was a member of parliament under Prime Minister Jean Chrétien when Paul Martin was the finance minister, back when Paul Martin slayed the deficit and actually started balancing the budget. McTagg saw all of that go down. And he's saying we're going to run into something worse. So for folks to call themselves conservative, I personally think that they have to be dedicated to smaller, less government that costs less money, that balances the budget and commits themselves to lower taxes. I don't see that in Ontario Premier Doug Ford, even though they're called conservatives.
And may I just add
please.
to that? When it comes to conservatives, and obviously they lost the last federal election. The big question I have for them is, much like they were advocating for back during the election, is, well, what change are they going to bring now? How are they going to get to the point where they figured out how to do a great leader of the official opposition? Poilievre touts the carbon tax, that having been gotten rid of. Trudeau and the public pressure that saw him resigning before his term was up. But how are they going to get to that next step? What are they going to do so that they're not just good at being a good critic of the government, but taking the reins? How are they going to get to that next step? Locking it in, as opposed to, another unfortunate loss, as many of them saw this one.
So just to game that out, I'll take off my Taxpayers Federation hat and put on my political journalist hat. And I've been in the game for a long time. The last election was odd because the NDP basically ceased to exist. So like the wheels on the bus flew off. They rolled into Lake Huron, like they were gone. The bus was smoking on the side of the highway. So what the Conservatives usually count on is for the left, okay, the NDP as an actual party, to get around 12 to 15-ish% of the vote, okay? Yeah. If they can get around that amount, Pierre Poilievre is a majority prime minister. But the NDP basically disappeared. And that was for several reasons, I would argue. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, I would describe as a very, very big L left-wing liberal type prime minister, legalizing marijuana, going through all sorts of stuff, totally spending. To be fair, I have seen much more fiscally disciplined New Democrat governments at provincial levels than I saw in the liberal prime minister of Trudeau. So it isn't even a partisan thing, but he just ate that entire side, the left-wing part of that spectrum. So there was no NDP vote at all. And so that was a huge factor. And so I think if there's some, charismatic, interesting NDP leader next time around, I think that you'll see the math kind of work out more likely in the Conservatives' favor. But you never know. You could have another weird situation like President Donald Trump making a joke about 51st state, and then all hell breaks loose again. And then nobody's talking about the fact that we've doubled the debt or that Trudeau has robbed us with the carbon tax. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really great assessment. I mean, one of the many keys to Stephen Harper's success was Thomas Mulcair, because the NDP had a not total crazy person running their party. Now, I would probably disagree with Thomas Mulcair on 99.5% of things, not everything. Sometimes his assessment of his fellow lefties seems to be spot on, but he was at least not an absolute lunatic and didn't feel like an intellectual lightweight. Wrong, but didn't feel stupid. And that has not been the case in a very long time for the NDP. And what we saw was Trudeau in all his elections, really, including the one where he rose to power in 2015, he outflanked the NDP on the left. He basically abandoned the middle, where the Conservatives usually fight with the Liberals, over voters and just went all in on the left. And so it was just a safe spot wherever you were on the progressive spectrum to land. And that was, I think, the key to Justin Trudeau's electoral success. So
if I can just jump in
Yeah,
quickly,
please, go.
the late leader of the NDP, Jack Layton, with whom I disagree with a lot of politics, but straight up, I worked on Parliament Hill as a producer for years and years. He was always a really nice man.
Right.
He used to come on Sun News Network. You can probably talk to Ezra about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to his credit, Jack Layton opposed the carbon tax, like big time, and for all of the right reasons, because it was a huge tax on the working poor. It was punishment for people driving to work and heating their homes. You can go look this up. It was in the Globe and Mail in 2008. You don't get more mainstream media than that. Jack Layton was principally opposed to things like that because, in his view, he was standing up for working people. I did not see that kind of language coming out of Jagmeet Singh's NDP at all, ever. And that is even in private, like, come on, man, leveling conversations with longtime MPs with the NDP. We would try to talk to them saying, could you at least argue to take the carbon tax off home heating bills? Crickets, nothing. You couldn't get them to budge. And so so that's the situation that we've had recently. If you get somebody in there with the NDP who is interesting to the left and charismatic, I can see those numbers going back up, especially if they're campaigning against the central banker rich guy thing, which is what Prime Minister Carney is.
And the one thing that we don't have anymore, is the supply confidence agreement between the NDP and the Liberal Party. And it just goes to show you, Chris, when you're talking about begging the NDP to please call for the carbon tax to be rescinded, and they refused. Well, that was the strength of the supply and confidence agreement between the NDP and the Liberals. But I can't be compelled to think that instead of a coalition of left-wing parties like they pulled in, France real recently. So Marine Le Pen of the Rally National Party of France was poised to win the election, exactly like Pierre Poilievre was, right? She was leading by a 20% margin until all of the left-wing parties established a coalition to beat her at the very last minute. You can't compel me to think that this didn't happen by managed collapse of the NDP, because Jagmeet Singh, for all of his flaws, was no Jack Layton. Okay, that man was in it for his pension and his pension alone, and he didn't give a crap about the party after the election. So what I think happened was there was a little agreement in the background. Well, if the NDP really tanks, and it looks like they are, well, then we'll just take all your votes by default, said the Liberal Party of Canada. Just real helpful. You know what I mean? Well, we'll take all your votes where you leave off Jagmeet. You can ride into the sunset with your $1 million pension. But I feel like it was a little bit of a coup by the left-wing political parties in Canada, what happened in our election.
I'm going to bring Sid back into the conversation because his friend and mine, Rachel Notley, is my personal favorite to run to replace Jagmeet Singh. And it's not because I like her. It's not because I think that she would be a good choice. It is because she is seen as a not radical. She's seen as a prairie pragmatist, even though in practice she's not. But for the NDP to be taken seriously again, they need a leader who could be taken seriously. She checks a lot of boxes that the left seems to care about.
Sure. The diversity boxes.
She's a woman. She's from the West, which is, I think, kind of important now because she cracked Fortress Alberta. I would love her to run for the federal NDP. I would love that. I would personally love that. I would be definitely in favor of that because it would draw voters away from Carney. Sid, what do you think?
Well, I was very disappointed with the NDP, not for their political leaning, but for the fact that during the election, they decided that their mission statement was going to be getting the Liberals elected, as opposed to representing the values that their voters want them to vote for. So if Ms. Notley is the one to bury the federal NDP into non-existence, then you know what? I would fully back that. But having bumped into her, she's quite hostile.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, she's got a lot of flame per square inch, I guess you could say. So
her BTUs are in the thousands.
Yeah, she's no Jack Layton, I'll tell you that much. Jack Layton would talk to anybody. He didn't demonize his political enemies. He thought they were wrong or didn't see things his way, but he didn't think they were necessarily evil. And that's not how Rachel Notley sees things. But
Stephen Harper cried when Jack Layton died.
Yeah, for sure he did.
Like for real.
Yeah.
Like in the House of right there, I saw him in the foyer of the House of Commons, and that's when he called for a state funeral. So
yeah,
again,
for a third party leader.
Sure. Like, you know, I read Atlas Shrugged. I disagree with him. Like, I'm pro-capitalist. Sure. But he was always a friendly person. He was never a jerk. He didn't talk down to people. And he kept this kind of funny coalition of who I would call kind of bike riding, downtown, urbanite, greenie types, along with more of the Bill Blakey, Boilermaker, lunch bucket, steel-toed set. I have not seen that since. Curious, while we're busy, are we shopping for an NDP leader tonight while we're waiting for the final results? I think that's a good use of our time.
I would like to.
So Wab Canoe speaks French, eh?
Yes. Yes.
He's perfectly bilingual. The dude can move
a lot of boxes
through 3 different languages.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
He ticks like 7 or 8 diversity boxes, Chris. 7
and
or
to be
8.
honest, like just straight up, I haven't met him in person, but I watch him on camera just as like, you know, in the game. The guy's got charisma. He's got good camera on camera appeal. Sorry?
He's a great communicator. I thought his tone with the Americans was great. He was sort of like, hey, we don't have to fight. Like that was, and I was like, yes, exactly.
That's a smart thing to say.
I disagree with him on probably 80% of things, but his tone was right with the Americans, and I agree with you. He is charismatic on camera. He is not a weaponized nerd like Mark Carney.
I think it might be worth mentioning. Now's a good time that he has some music that he made before stepping into politics.
He's a former rapper.
I don't know if we're allowed to play
He was a rapper.
Song.
Yeah. He's got
awesome.
He's got quite a redemption arc, actually.
Which fits a rap song. Rap songs all about redemption arcs, man.
But you just gotta wonder, okay? You just gotta wonder what forces are at play that would allow a redemption arc as spectacular as Wab Canoe's. Because for all intents and purposes, Wab Canoe was going down all the wrong paths. Okay, all of them in his early years. And then all of a sudden emerges this sort of godlike figure from the ashes of the NDP to take over the entire province of Manitoba. And unlike you guys, who I kind of hear saying that you appreciate some of Wab Canoe's attributes, I don't trust the man. I don't trust the man. No. If you're an orange, you're untrustworthy to me. Okay. You will say anything to get those votes. You will say anything and then immediately do the exact wrong thing. That he is represented by orange makes him bad man. He's orange man bad. Orange man. Orange man bad. Okay. Wab Canoe in Canada for me.
I realize we have our next guest in the waiting room, but
Sheila,
go ahead.
One thing for us, I think we have to wear a hair shirt here for a second as the Albertans who are on the panel right now. Sid, are you physically in Alberta right now?
Yes.
Certainly am.
All right. Well, the 3 Albertans. Wab Canoe is beating us on gas taxes.
Oh, I know.
Manitoba has got the cheapest gas taxes in all of Canada. It is beating Saskatchewan, you rectangle people out there, Elise.
Yeah.
And Alberta. So I'm just saying, now I don't know why a premier of an whole province would want to step into the fixer-upper to pimp the ride of the NDP federally, but stranger things have happened. And weirder redemption arcs have happened before. So I'm just saying, guy's perfectly trilingual. He speaks English, French, and I forget which First Nations language he speaks.
Like I said,
I'm not going to vote for him.
Yeah, 7 or 8 diversity boxes, and that gets you a long way in left-leaning politics. Yeah. So let's not. I'm not counting him out. I'm just saying I don't trust him.
I think we have our next guest in the waiting room.
I'll jump off.
Okay, Chris, thank you so much for everything today, from early this morning to late tonight. You've really been a lifesaver. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Before you go, tell people how they can find your work for the CTF.
Oh, perfect. So taxpayer.com, you can sign our petitions against things like PST on used cars because it's a disgusting attack on the working poor. You can sign a petition against media being funded by the government. And you can also read up on our Gas Tax Honesty Day report, which includes the fact that Manitoba has got the lowest gas taxes in all of Canada. So thank you so much, Premier Wab Canoe.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. Sid, sorry you didn't get very many words in edgewise, but you jumped on a panel with 3 other women. So what do you expect? Okay, thank you, Sid. Keep up the great work.
Let me just add one final note before we go.
Please jump on for a second. Yeah, please.
That is Elections Canada. I did email them when the longest ballot committee caused them to change the layout of the ballot, and they said for tonight, we quote, "We do expect that counting may take somewhat longer." They also said they will continue until all results are posted, so it might be fairly late. As to, a final, more positive note than that, I think we're almost at the time in society where Rob Ford can be reconstructed in AI without the negative side and brought back to be the mayor of Toronto again.
Yeah, but I want the fun side too.
I want them all. Rob Ford. I want original recipe Rob Ford.
Yeah, not New Coke Rob Ford. I didn't mean that joke at all. I didn't mean that pun at all until I said it. Okay, Sid, thanks so much for jumping on the show. Thanks so much for working hard in Battle River-Crowfoot over the weekend. We'll see you in the morning.
Appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
Bye. All right, we'll bring on our next guest. You might know him as Clyde Do Something. He's Clyde Nichols. Rose to prominence during the Freedom Convoy, as so many alternative media space conservative types did. He's still around, still working hard. Clyde, let's bring you in. Hi, Clyde.
Hey.
Thanks. Is this your first time officially on a Rebel News show?
I think so. I think this would be officially my first appearance on Rebel News. Thanks for having me.
I'm so embarrassed. That's so long overdue. I think we talked to you during the convoy.
Oh, you and I have met a few times, and I've been. Maybe I had some interviews on Rebel. I know Drea. She interviewed me before, and I was with. There was a whole thing with Alexa
during the convoy
over the summer here. No, even before. Just recently, we were at a national security conference in Toronto.
Yes, you guys were there with Josh from Elevate, actually, who was on a little earlier.
Yeah, Jasmine Lane. Shout outs to everybody.
Yeah, look at all the independent journalists out there. I want to talk to you about Battle River-Crowfoot. What are your predictions? I don't know if you looked at the results before you jumped on, but my question is, do you think Bonnie Critchley is going to make it to 10%, given all the advertorials she received from the Carney-contaminated media?
Well, it might be a tight race, as we were expecting.
Tightening up.
Yeah. No, of course, we all knew that this is going to go to Pierre Poilievre, and this is the reason why they chose that riding in particular. And it really is just an exercise in getting Pierre back. Really, that's all that is. They wanted to make it a showboaty sort of event, and they wanted to push out, use this as an opportunity to slander Pierre, the Conservatives as a whole, as much as they possibly can. But at the end of the day, this was Pierre's to win, and he's coming back. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, and really, that's what it is. Regardless of how the mainstream media tried to pump the tires of Bonnie Critchley in that riding, and the fact that Elections Canada didn't do anything to deal with the longest ballot committee. Can anybody tell me what those people do around here at Elections Canada? Because as best I could tell, they mismanage elections and let foreign interference, domestic interference from these longest ballot committee people come in. They lose ballots, they screw up ballots in Quebec so that the riding is flipped by one vote. I'm not sure what they do around here. And one of the first order of businesses, I think, for a Conservative government, if and when that ever happens again, is they have to do something with Elections Canada, at least jump in.
Well, yeah, because we revealed on one of our other live streams that Elections Canada just revealed a 7-year DEI strategic plan. So elections aren't even like in terms of racism and harassment and Islamophobia and all of the things that Elections Canada is concentrating on. Elections is literally like the 7th or 8th thing that they find important. Like there are many other DEI related initiatives that Elections Canada is more interested in pursuing than fair and transparent elections. Like that is the craziest thing. And just like so many other public institutions, like obviously the whole thing has to get burnt to the ground and built again because what they're doing right now isn't working.
Well, do you really expect the government to do anything well?
No.
I mean, you have one job, and that's really what it comes down to. No matter where Elections Canada is working, no matter which department in the government, it just
it doesn't
every
matter.
bureaucracy, they're just falling apart at the seams, hiring incompetent people. It's you see more nepotism in government than you ever see any sort of meritocracy. This is what we get, and you're seeing exactly the products of that.
Yeah.
And it looks like under Mark Carney that's just accelerating. I'm happy you used the word nepotism or another one, cronyism, or we're entering a stage of being a kleptocracy in Canada, where our natural resources are just pillaged by the elite classes for the benefit of the friends of the elite classes.
You know what? I wish. But they won't even let us pillage the natural resources. They're like, leave them in the ground. We're not even treated as well as a colony because a colony, they want to let us extract the resources. They want the resources and they also want the wealth. They just want our wealth without letting us do the thing that creates the wealth, and that's extract the resources. So we're worse than that. I don't know what
the federal government is formulating a plan, though, Sheila, to eviscerate all of the regulations and red tape that go along with, nation building projects. And so that will be the extraction of natural resources from Western Canada. You mark my words. What has value?
I believe that's going to be wind turbines and solar panels. I don't believe that's going to be.
I honestly think that, I think Carney and the Liberal government will at some point have to allow for some sort of extraction of energy. The problem that I have with it is how they're going to go about it. We see with Bill C5 and that being passed, it's more about bringing together a central authority, and that's no good for anybody. It's not, we won't be, pulling these resources out of the ground on our own terms. Alberta won't be on their terms. British Columbia won't on their terms. If it happens in Quebec, it won't be on their terms. Nobody's going to like this deal except central planners. And this is really the wrong direction for Canada.
So interesting you should say that. Yeah, go on, Sheila.
Well, I was just going to point out that I don't think it matters whether or not C5 has been passed, because we used to be able to build a lot of things under the old regulations, and I'm not talking about the No More Pipelines regulations that shoehorned DEI, gender nonsense, the GBA plus, the gender-based analysis plus, ask the local feminist if the pipeline hurt her feelings before you have permission to build it regulation. Before that, we had the National Energy Board, or the NEB, or the NERB. And it was a plainly technical review. And we used to build things under that. We used to build refineries. We used to build pipelines. And a couple of pipelines were approved under it, including Trans Mountain, the expansion. Also, Northern Gateway Pipeline was approved under the NEB. And then the courts got involved. So it doesn't even matter what is permitted under the legislation, whether it's this liberal, weird C5, which I actually don't like C5. It's very centralized and it doesn't have enough technical focus in it. Because if you're worried about a pipeline leaking, I feel like you should have a technical focus. But they don't have a ton of that. And it doesn't matter because once you have these weaponized, captured activist courts, it doesn't matter what the law said. the court will do whatever it wants. We're seeing that when it comes to energy projects like Northern Gateway. We saw it in Saskatchewan, where they're challenging a law that's already shielded with the notwithstanding clause. We're seeing it in Alberta, where they're challenging
seeing it accelerate right through the notwithstanding clause.
Yeah, we're seeing it in Alberta with the Parents' Bill of Rights. So I don't until we deal with the courts that are captured by activists, we're in a gridlock in this country. And imagine, let's say in my wildest fever dreams, Mark Carney decides to do mass deportations. I wake up to a dream, and he's rounding up all the temporary foreign workers, and he says, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here. And I don't even know what land I've woken up in. But you know who would step in immediately? The activist courts to stop it. And until we deal with that, we're in for a world of trouble. Go ahead, Clyde, because you've been nodding for a minute.
So this is an interesting point, because this is what I actually wanted to see happen out of the last election. I was hopeful for Pierre Poilievre. Unfortunately, I don't think he ran a very good campaign in the end. At the end, he lost it, and we can all see why.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, that's the judge of whether or not you ran a good campaign. Did you win?
Well, that's
it's
true.
a pretty big report card. Yeah,
there's a lot of people that are giving a lot of excuses for why that didn't happen, and blaming lots of people. But so he did not win, and Canadians chose the Liberals because of the whole Orange Man bad, and that's been a big thing. The hope was that the Conservatives would get in and they would have a mandate from the people, and then it would be obvious that the courts and the bureaucracies and everything is captured. That's when it would have been really, really obvious to the average Canadian. And that's when things could have changed. We could have had reforms at that point. Right now, it's all cloudy because, maybe Carney wants to do something, but then the activists, as you're describing here, won't want to go along with that. But is it something that Carney really wants? Or perhaps that was just the plan all along? I mean, if you read Values, you can see exactly what he wanted to do. And some of the rhetoric that he's saying today sounds nice. And maybe a lot of people, centrist people, or even people on the right might get along with that and want those things. But are these the things he actually wants? Judging by his character and his life's work, I wouldn't put my money on it.
The man is a bait and switch artist is what he is. So he can come out and stand at a podium and say, well, I'm going to do what's best for Canadians, and I'm going to do what benefits Canadians, and we are going to get all of our ducks in a row, and we are just going to slay this Canadian dream, when in fact he's been in the background for at least the past 5 years, advising the Trudeau government, lining up his ducks in a row on Brookfield's end, right? So that when he became prime minister, it would immediately benefit the shareholders of Brookfield, that he has massive conflicts of interest still with. It is a real shame that Pierre Poilievre did not win. Well, actually, the Conservative Party didn't win the last election, that it was so horribly mishandled at the end of they blew a 20-point lead. There's a reason for that. It was completely mishandled at the end. But the opportunity that loss gave to the Liberal Party of Canada and Mark Carney level insiders is just enormous and can't be understated.
Clyde, I want to talk to you about this longest ballot committee nonsense, because I don't know if you noticed, but it really sticks in my craw. I hate it. And I hate it because this has been on the radar of the elections commissioner, the exceedingly useless and incompetent Stéphane Perreault, since at least October of 2024. So well in advance of the next election. Conservatives were hammering him in committee about it, and he didn't do anything. He acknowledged the problem, didn't do anything. And then to some success, they pulled it off in Ottawa Carleton. Maybe it affected the vote, maybe it didn't, but it is a mockery of the elections process that 90 plus of them run in Ottawa Carleton, and then 215 or whatever is 214 of them run then in the next riding of Battle River-Crowfoot. It's such an insult. It's such an insult to the voters of Battle River-Crowfoot that their vote is turned into just an absolute mockery of the entire system. And yet nobody is doing anything about it. And as a fiscal conservative, I'm like, how much does this stupid meddling cost us? You know, we've got to change the ballots. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. We've got to pay extra election workers to count them. We have, like, it's a by-election. It's 10:34 at night. Why don't we have the definite results? Got to hand count them because we got to deal with voter intent. Are we ever going to see them fix this, or is it just never going to get fixed as long as the Liberals in power?
Well, it is a mockery. It's supposed to be a mockery. That's the whole idea of it. It was established by the Rhinoceros Party years ago as a protest against the first past the post system. You can get rid of the first past the post. Justin Trudeau he got given a mandate to do that in 2015, and he didn't do that. So it could have been over way back then. It could have been over in 2021 when Justin Trudeau when he was asked about it, he said, "Well, I didn't feel it right to do that when I had a majority because that would just be unfair." That's what the point of being given a mandate is, especially when that was the top of the ticket for his election. Then he came back and said, well, we want to bring people together to do this, but nobody can agree on it. Well, that's why you were there to do it in the first place, and you didn't follow through with it. So the idea is, if you want to get rid of this, get rid of the first past the post. Now, would people try to do this in the future afterwards? Possibly. Was this targeted at Pierre Poilievre? It certainly looks that way.
It's only at conservatives. It's only at conservatives. And I don't even think you need to get rid of first past the post. Just get rid of these jerks. They all have the same financial agent. It's very clearly a scam. Make them put up $200. That's not an imposition. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not $1,000. It's not $10,000. You would have fewer election meddlers if they had to put some skin in the game, but they have nothing.
But the craziest thing is one of the organizers of the longest ballot committee actually took this to court and challenged it and won back in 2017. So they actually weaponized an activist court to let this slide through our system. And if it's only ever harming conservatives and only ever benefiting the left,
what's the incentive to fix it?
We have to look at this in terms of the interference that it's electoral interference is what it actually is.
Yeah, and you know, when there's no. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, okay. I just wanted to add this in. So there are ways of fixing things like this. So I think it was Japan that did this, where they put in a provision where you have to pledge to spend at least X amount on advertising during your campaign. Because if you're going to run, you're expected to campaign and win.
Know what? That explains why Japanese elections are so darn fun. They have people like on parade floats out in the streets. If you get a minute after this, and I know it's late, go
Japanese
look at elections
campaigns
on YouTube. There's people dressed in costumes handing out ballots and stuff. I guess it's when when you're forced to spend money, they get a little creative. Anyways, I'll be quiet. But yeah,
I used to live in Japan. I used to live in Japan. Yeah. My wife's Japanese, and we're really in support of the Japan First Party. And so we've been following a bunch of this going forward. But when it comes to the elections, to thwart this sort of thing, you'd have to put forward a pledge to say that you would pay this much money in advertising. It's not a direct fee, so it's not something that would be unconstitutional or something that could be fought in the courts, because you're not paying a fee directly to the government. You're just pledging that you're going to spend at least this much in advertisement, which I think it was around $2,000, which is a really, really low bar.
That's a modest amount for an advertising campaign. Yeah,
that's correct. So, but it's enough to thwart people from putting, frivolous ballots or frivolous names on the ballot.
Sure.
Do you know, I love that solution. And again, I think it makes Japanese elections fun just on the outside looking in. But I love that the fee doesn't go to Elections Canada or the government. It goes back into the economy. It goes to local advertisers, stays sort of local. If you've only got, a couple $1,000 to spend on elections advertising, you're going to put it, like, you're really going to target it. I think that's a great solution. But these people have no skin in the game. They're not even from the country, the country, who even knows, but they're not. A lot of them are from British Columbia, as the one lady with the same last name as the dead lady, which we talked about earlier. Like, it was just like, it's crazy. One lady had the exact same name, Elsie Kipp, I think it was, which is not exactly a common name. And the original Elsie Kipp, who seems like a lovely lady, passed away in February. And then so people were going through the longest ballot committee names, and they're like just checking them, just Googling the names, and one came back as an obituary, and they're like, they put a dead lady on it. And actually, no, they tracked down the lady. She's in BC. She's never set foot in Battle River-Crowfoot. And she's like, no, I'm with the longest ballot committee. I'm just a scammer. I'm not dead. And I would rather have told them I'm dead. Yes, thank you. I'm talking to you from beyond the grave. I would have been so embarrassed. But no. Just terrible. What a mess it all is. You know, Clyde, we've kept you longer than we said we would keep you, and we're really grateful for you being generous with your time, and I know it's late. Clyde, tell people where they can find your work, follow along with the things that you're doing and the people that you're talking to before we let you go.
Well, every morning on Clyde Do Something here on YouTube, check it out, or you can follow me on X. Every morning we do videos talking about the news, and every Wednesday evening I do a live show with Marty up north, and Fridays I do another live show with a rotating group of different guests. So come check us out. It's a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, is that live with Marty?
That's live with Marty, yeah.
Okay, I'll let people go to you first because you're competing with my time slot on Wednesday behind the paywall at Rebel News, but they can watch me whenever they feel like it. If you're live, I'll send them to you. No big deal. I'm not competitive like that. Thanks, Clyde, for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you very much, and I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Me too. Me too.
Yep.
Thanks for being here, Clyde.
Yep.
Cheers.
Okay, let's go check at the election results, and then we'll get to the comments, and then I think we might just check back in one more time. We'll see if Elsie is getting any votes from beyond the grave.
Okay. Poor Elsie.
Elsie has escaped her mortal coil, and people are still voting for her. Maybe. We'll check in. Sorry, go ahead, Olivia. I think you were in my ear.
Oh.
Okay, so we'll do a couple, we'll catch up on our chats, we'll check the results, and we've got Poilievre's victory speech, and then we're gonna go to bed because I gotta be right back in this desk tomorrow, bright and early, in fewer hours than I would like to admit. So let's scroll back up. Let me know if, okay, I think it is. Where did I get to? I think it's RIP-SA Faraboy. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 279 says, can you bring back the DILF King, Gavin McInnes? Gavin's busy doing his own thing. But I do enjoy Gavin. I think he's funny.
Yeah.
He's funny. J. Rue, I'm so sorry we didn't get back to this sooner. $100. Thank you so much.
Absolute legend.
Rebel News got the facts because y'all kick Gluteus Max. Well, that's nice. Thank you so much.
Nice little poem.
Yeah. Who's shuffling past my door? Do I have a kid still up? Anyway, we've got one from Maladjusted Quest. $5. Sometimes I don't see the strange spelling of the common word that you have in your chats, and I would be like, Maladjusted Quest. When I saw it this time, Maladjusted Quest gives us $5 and says, why aren't you lawyers using malfeasance more often to take on these corrupt politicians? Look, there's no trick. There's no legal trick to doing any of this stuff.
There's no easy fix.
There's no fun way out of this. I think really you can only vote your way out of this. And every vote I cast is canceled out by some boomer in Toronto.
That's the way of the West.
Yeah, so go back and listen to Keith and get depressed. I was so depressed, Ezra had to go. But anyways, there's no sort of thing that you haven't quite figured out yet about how to get us out of this. There's a structural problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Franklin
systemic problem.
Big time. Problem. Yeah. Franklin in the dark gives us $10. Love all the Rebel crew, Calgary born and bred. Well, that's nice. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. Sid is now in Calgary, but he is a refugee from the failed state of Toronto.
Yeah. We lured him out.
Yeah, affordable housing did that. And Don Murley gives us $10 and says, great to see my mom doing great reporting on here.
Oh,
Up for Saskatchewan, go Riders.
This is my son. I bet this is my son that is commenting on our live stream.
Murley.
It's my boy.
I know my kids don't watch because they will text me while I'm on air. I'm like, they're like, what are you doing? Got a minute to talk? I'm like, no, I'm on TV.
This is actually so cute. Like
that is
that's
so
adorable.
Stinking cute.
Thank
you. $10 to talk to his mom.
Thank you so much, honey. That's actually incredible. And like Sheila, look at him cry.
Oh, it's so cute.
Little love sesh between. So for our viewers, this is my eldest of 6. Just texted in with $10 for Rebel News, saying he loves what his mom is doing, and if that's not enough to just like warm the cockles of your cold hard heart, I'm not sure what does. But thank you, my boy. That is so sweet. Yeah, I got tears. I have actual tears.
But you know what? I know what that means to you.
Yeah, true story. Yes, I bet I have a text that I didn't see because I'm on the air, and then so he's like, "Well, this is how I'm going to get to her first."
Yeah,
this
that's
is
exactly it.
It's so funny. Thank you.
Aw. Deborah sent another $13.99, and I don't see a chat yet, Deborah. But thank you.
Oh, Deborah. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Chantel Earl gives us $20 and says, I got to vote for our next prime minister. He's going to roast Carney in the House of Commons. Can't wait. You know what? That's really what was missing. In the House of Commons in the last very short session was like Rempel was ripping it up out there. Like she was doing a great job. The Conservatives who were there were doing a great job. But Poilievre he's really good at QP. He's great at it.
He's had enough practice, right? Like he is an expert at question period. And I can't wait to see Mark Carney be absolutely outpaced by Pierre Poilievre. One of the things that Keith Wilson said, I just want to get back to just super quick because it's on this topic, is he said Mark Carney is the most awkward public speaker in the universe. Like he's forever thanking people where he shouldn't be thanking
and doing
people.
Weird things with his hands.
Just right. It's like weird. And like diving in an airplane at the airport.
Yeah, and his elbows are weirdly close to his body. Like at the G7, it was just like I
mean?
wanted to die every time he walked out at the G7 because he was just so awkward and rude, and it's like he is unable to read a social cue.
Well, I do believe that he thanks people at the beginning of questions to buy himself a little bit of time while he checks his mental Rolodex and looks for notes that his handlers have given him. So you'll notice that when he's in a presser with the mainstream media and somebody levels a question at him, he will always say, well, thank you very much for that question. That's just a stall tactic. It's just
it's a time waster.
It's right.
A time waster. Yeah. Freeland does other things like Freeland will talk about like, you know, and I'm just so grateful that we all have come together to join in this moment of gratitude.
Do her voice.
To thank you for asking this really important question.
There it is.
On behalf of all Canadians. Like, and it's just like, okay, well, 30 seconds. Yes, to answer.
Yes.
But no, she just thanked everybody. She does the same thing.
A stall tactic, yeah.
And it's just ragging the puck, as they say in hockey. Stephen Jansen gives us $10. It blows me away that these federalist leaders are all chasing the sinking ship of Canada with duct tape to stop the leaks and cracks. The whole system is corrupt and broken. Look, I ain't going to disagree with that.
Yeah. You are all of us, sir.
We read that one. Things refresh and then I get lost. Chris Corpus gives us $10 and it just says thank you. And then we've got this tweet from Andrew Lawton. Andrew Lawton is calling it now. MP for London, Ontario, former broadcaster Andrew Lawton. He says, congratulations on a resounding win in Battle River-Crowfoot. See you in Ottawa.
Lovely. Andrew Lawton is a peach.
Yep. And Anna Poilievre says, we're back.
Not a girl. It's good to see you.
Yeah, this is, you know what? She up against Carney's familiar, vampire's familiar of a wife.
Right.
Anna is just a delight.
Isn't she a peach? I was thinking to myself how lucky they are to now get to raise their children in Alberta. I was actually thinking about this for their family.
What a blessing. They're in Stettler, I believe.
Like,
lovely town. You're going to love it there.
Yeah, they are just going to fit right in. Their little kids are going to make all of the Albertan friends. They're going to put down roots there. And how, like, there are silver linings, right? That
for sure.
come after big upsets and for sure for the Poilievre family, losing the Carleton seat would have been a huge, and the election on the same night would have been a huge letdown. But that they are now Alberta based, that they now get to raise their children in Alberta with Alberta values, with Alberta neighbors. This
in
is
small
just
town Alberta, there's nothing better.
It's just going to be the absolute best thing that ever happened to their family, and I hope that she really enjoys her years there.
She says, okay. She says, politics is up and down. People do it because they believe in something. It is built by people with strong conviction and fire in their belly, willing to sacrifice to fight for what they believe is right. It's not for everyone. It's not easy, but it is worth it. It has its ugly sides and its beautiful ones. Holding people in my arms at rallies, giving them hope, is one of the most beautiful connections I've ever felt, aside from the connection with my children and family.
Aww.
It also has its ugly side. Friendships come and go as if dictated by the polls. Good for her. She just roasted somebody that we don't know about.
Oh, Sheila, right now we are digging down into that part of the story. She just divulged something really, really monumental. And that was a shot across the bow to somebody that wronged her. And
somebody did her dirty.
Who did Anna Poilievre dirty? We are going to hold your feet to the fire. Okay, you do not do our Anna wrong.
No.
She's such a honey. Okay, keep reading. But read that last part over. Sorry.
She says, friendships come and go as if dictated by the polls. Just like the weather, people come and go. So remember, family is everything, and fighting for hope is still worth it all. We are the Poilievres, and we are built on resilience, courage, and love for you all. We're back.
Oh, just beautiful.
Good for her.
Yeah. We got to find out what that's all about, though, Sheila Gunn Reid.
My goodness, we got another super chat from Dwayne Snyder. It says we're number one. And $69.99.
What?
Yeah.
Well, who's my favorite? It's that guy.
That guy. Everybody is. We've got Poilievre's speech. Before we go to his speech, let's just check on the election night results as if they really, really matter. Bonnie Critchley is flirting with 2 digits. Ezra should be sleeping because if he wakes up to her cracking 10%, he's going to be insufferable tomorrow morning.
Right.
But Poilievre is at 80.
10% is not nothing. Listen, in really, really close ridings, 10% would make it or break it in really, really close ridings. And so if we are to look at Bonnie Critchley as a good test case about what the entire might of the mainstream media can do in an election result, we can pretty much say with their endorsement, they can get a nobody 10 points. Will you apply this to somebody that has a little bit of a local standing that's not, as out there as Bonnie Critchley? And that's enough to swing an election or two. So this is a good lesson, a learned lesson for us.
I wanted to look at what the Liberal got.
Oh, what was his name?
No, I don't care about the last one. I'm just looking at what Brent Sutton, the sacrificial Liberal in the riding, got. He got like 12%. So he got 12%. And right now, Bonnie and Catherine Swampy. I'm just looking where all these votes came from. So it looks like the Liberal and New Democrats, between the two of them in the last election, got about 15% of the vote.
Okay.
And tonight, it's 16%. Yeah, she's saying the viewers want us to get to the speech. But what I'm saying is, Bonnie maybe took 1% off of Poilievre, is what I'm saying. When I look at how the progressive votes have, that they have
extrapolated out,
like across the parties, 1% bled from, and that's the CBC effect. Good job, guys. Let's go to Poilievre's speech. Oh, sorry. Olivia, you're bossing me around. Okay. We've got, oh my goodness. We'll sign off before we go to Poilievre's speech because it's 19 minutes and that will put us on, Lisa and I, on air quite late and we have to do the live stream tomorrow. So stay with us. We'll play it to close out the show. We've got Medic Mark, 22, and he gives us $27.99. And he says, so when I went to vote today in Wainwright, it's a military town, I went to where the voter card said, and when I got there, I was bounced around to other spots. When I returned to the original place I started at, they magically found my name. You know, it's funny. They did the same thing to my daughter in the federal election. They bounced her around all over the place, and then she ended up right back at the beginning. So, anyways, I reiterate, Elections Canada, what exactly do they do around here? We've got one more chat. Pale pinkish humanoid gives us $50. Holy heck.
You guys, just the best.
I don't want to say the chat started rolling in after Ezra signed off, but they really started rolling in after Ezra signed off. Anyway, you folks deserve much more, but this is all I can afford to split with. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate that you choose us. You're already forced to support media that hates you and you hate them. So that you choose us really means a lot to me, and I know it does to Lise too. I think those are all the chats, Olivia. Tell me, confirm to me. Okay, we're going to sign off. Lise, thank you so much for sticking with me for the last 3 hours on another election live stream. There is nobody I would rather do these things with. And I can say that now that Ezra's gone off to bed.
Same.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Olivia, Efron, everybody who stayed up late to throw this together because it is super late in Toronto. Yeah. We appreciate you. We appreciate everybody who watched the show tonight, who shared the show so that people can watch it too because they don't even know what they're missing. Those of you who pitched in to keep the lights on here at Rebel News, we honestly could not do this without you. We appreciate you so much. Congratulations to the Poilievres and welcome to Alberta. We're glad to have you. You might be in the free state of Alberta though. Sooner than you think, but that's for them to sort out. Let's sign off. We'll see you back tomorrow for the Rebel News live stream, Rebel Roundup, where we'll digest even more of this. So if you haven't gotten enough of me and Lise, well, there's more. We'll see you in a few hours tomorrow morning, 11 Mountain. Thank you so much, guys. Here's Poilievre's speech from, I'm not sure where HQ was for him. I don't know.
Somewhere in Alberta.
Somewhere in one of the largest ridings in the country. Anyway, here it is. Thanks, guys. Good night.
Congratulations, Jamie. Thank you very much. It's great to be with you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the great people of Battle River-Crowfoot. If I stand before you here today, it is by the grace of God and the good generosity of so many people, the first of which I must start with is my incredible wife, Anna. Anna, yes, give her a round of applause. Where did she go? Anna, you have been an incredible rock for our family. You've been the glue that has bound us all together. And to my kids, à mes enfants, Valentina et Cruz, vous me manquez énormément. Vous me manquez énormément. Yeah, my kids have been incredibly patient and understanding as Dad has been on the road a tremendous amount over a long period of time. And especially little Valentina, I haven't seen in a while, but I want them to know that we do this work for them and for all of Canada's kids. Thank you to the incredible Damien Kurek, who has made, thank you. whose gracious sacrifice has made this moment possible. He and Danielle have been filled with kindness and generosity to us. The story that most captures the essence of the Couric family happened at a tragic moment in their life. Last harvest, Damien lost his best friend and his father right in the middle of the harvest. And of course, this was a heartbreaking moment for him. He had spent his childhood basically being mentored by this gentleman who had taught him everything he knew. But then he had to ask himself, how are we going to get the crop off? 6,000 acres. And the leader of all of this work was no longer with them. And suddenly, dozens of combines from across Battle River-Crowfoot appeared at the Couric farm and scattered out into the fields and brought home the harvest. Without asking for anything in return, these incredible neighbors, friends, and people perhaps they didn't even know showed up to give a helping hand. This was bringing in the harvest in more than one way, for the Couric family has planted the seeds of friendship across this region for over 100 years. And the seeds of those friendships came home in that beautiful harvest on that day. And that epitomizes the great people of Battle River-Crowfoot, for whom I am grateful that I will have the chance to be their humble servant, to fight every day and in every way for the people in this region who feed, power, and protect all of Canada. These are the farmers, the tradespeople, the soldiers, the prison guards, the entrepreneurs, and so much more. Through drought and depression, through booms and busts, they've come through it all, and they've never stopped. But this incredible region and its amazing people have suffered terribly over the last 10 years. I've seen the main streets that have been hollowed out, and the trades workers who are underemployed because there is just not the work, as the federal government has attacked the oil and gas sector and favored foreign producers. This is the truth here in Battle River-Crowfoot and in many communities across this country. Over the last 10 years, Liberal policies have sent crime, immigration, housing costs, inflation, spiraling out of control. Now, they promised recently that things would be different, but under Mr. Carney and his 157 days in office, they've only gotten worse. There have been many announcements and meetings, many photo ops, and a lot of jazz, but not a lot of results. He sent everyone home for a summer vacation. He sent them home even though the deficit is spiraling out of control. Inflation is up, elbows are down, no resource projects are underway, and the housing crisis worsens as builders can't afford to build and buyers can't afford to buy. That's why us Conservatives have our work cut out for us. This fall, as Parliament returns, we will not only oppose out-of-control Liberal inflation, crime, immigration, cost of living, and housing prices, but we will propose real solutions for safe streets, secure borders, a stronger and sovereign country with bigger take-home pay for our people. We will put Canada first, and we will do so in a way that will make our country self-reliant and make our people capable of earning paychecks that buy affordable food and homes in safe neighborhoods. Thank you. Cet automne, à la reprise des travaux parlementaires, on ne se contentera pas de s'opposer à la criminalité, l'endettement et l'immigration et le coût de la vie hors de contrôle des libéraux. On va proposer des vraies solutions pour changer des choses, pour rendre nos rues sécuritaires, nos frontières sûres et les salaires des travailleurs plus forts, la vie plus abordable. On va mettre le Canada d'abord en automne, en travaillant pour les travailleurs, les gens qui font le travail acharné pour qu'ils puissent avoir un bon chèque de paie et une belle vie dans des communautés sécuritaires. Et nous serons prêts à travailler avec n'importe quel parti pour réaliser ces objectifs. We are going to be ready to work with any party to get these results. We need stronger take-home pay for our people in Battle River-Crowfoot and across Canada. because people can't afford to live. They tell me the same story everywhere I go. Canadians now spend 42% of their income on taxes, more than on food, clothing, and shelter combined. And Mr. Carney's deficits are actually bigger today than the ones that Justin Trudeau left behind. More money for bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, corporate welfare, fraudulent refugees, less money in the pockets of the people who earned it. We will push to cut waste and cap spending so that we can bring down inflation, debt, and taxes. We believe that Canadians deserve low taxes and bigger paychecks so that food and homes are not luxuries, but once again, the things that people can take for granted. You work hard for your money. It's time that your money started working hard for you. And transportation is one of the biggest costs to get around in this country. It's a big country, a cold country. How many came here in their electric car today? Not many. Anybody driving from Provost or Oyen and in your electric vehicle? Hardisty, from Hardisty? No, no, no. You might be on the side of the road right now. And yet in 6 months, Mr. Carney expects to have an electric vehicle mandate imposed with $20,000 per vehicle taxes applying to any vehicle above his mandated quota. This is a direct attack on rural life and on the cost of living in Canada. It will wipe out our auto sector. It is not an exaggeration to say that the majority of communities in Battle River-Crowfoot and across rural and remote Canada would not exist if an electric vehicle mandate were in place. And that is why Conservatives are going to mount a massive pressure campaign at dealerships, at auto plants, in communities across the country and on the floor of the House of Commons to stop the electric vehicle mandate and allow Canadians to buy the car or truck of their choice. You should be back in the driver's seat. We need safe streets again, even in rural communities where Kevin Sorensen tells me they used to leave the doors unlocked. Now people don't feel so safe. In rural communities on farms, the thieves are showing up and siphoning gas and stealing copper. More dangerous and violent drug offenses are happening everywhere. Conservatives will push for laws that lock up violent offenders, ban drugs, treat addiction, and make our communities safe to raise families and for seniors to retire. We'll also protect the lawful, licensed, trained, and tested firearms owners. Having a hunting rifle in rural communities is not just a matter of recreation. It is a way to feed your family. And we will secure our borders by putting an end to the Liberal open borders experiment of mass immigration, which has been a disaster. Over the next several years, we need to have more people leaving than coming, so that citizens in Canada can afford homes, can find jobs, and health care again. Conservatives welcome lawful, orderly immigration, but it has to be done in our national interest, the right people, and in the right numbers. In other words, we will fight to restore an immigration system that puts Canada first. And most of all, we need to restore the sovereignty of our country. Our nation has become far too dependent on one export market, and increasingly the Liberals are losing two trade wars, one with China and one with the U.S. Since Mr. Carney took office, $60 billion of net investment has fled the country to escape high Liberal taxes and brutal anti-development policies. This has weakened our economy and our negotiating position against other countries that want to take advantage of us. Those investors are taking their money to other places that have lower taxes and more favorable treatment. Meanwhile, U.S. and Chinese tariffs have actually worsened since Mr. Carney got elected, and that was an election that he ran on getting a better deal. Conservatives will fight to put Canada first, and we will work with anyone from any party. We continue to extend our hand to Mr. Carney and say that we want to work with any party to put an end to the tariffs and get a fair deal for Canada. In fact, we're proposing solutions, nonpartisan solutions, that will help strengthen Canada's hand. For example, we propose a Canadian Sovereignty Act to take back control of our economic destiny. This act would legalize pipeline construction, rapid mine approvals, LNG plants, nuclear plants. It would get rid of the industrial carbon tax, the EV mandate. It would ensure that Alberta could continue increasing its output of oil and gas. It would pave the way to get pipelines built right across this country, and it would eliminate capital gains tax when you reinvest your profits here in Canada to bring back hundreds of billions of dollars investment. This is an idea I hope the Liberals will steal, because our purpose is Canada. It's a plan that will mean that we dig mines, lay pipe, open ports, unleash the might of our worker and the genius of our entrepreneur in a bigger, more powerful free enterprise economy that put Canadians back in charge of their lives. These steps will save you money, restore safety in your streets, secure your borders, and strengthen your nation's sovereignty. These are based on common sense, getting back to basics. Things I learned a lot about when I was traveling around the great communities of the region of Battle River-Crowfoot. And I have to say, you know, some might have thought it was a burden for me to come right off the campaign trail in a national campaign and go straight to knocking on doors, to traveling throughout a region of 56,000 square kilometers. But I'll tell you something, it was not a burden at all. This has been a privilege. Getting to know the people in this region has been the privilege of my life. In fact, I've had a hell of a lot of fun. Whether it's been at the Bronc matches or the rodeos, or, you know, walking into a parking lot, some guy I don't even know walks up and offers me a big bag of beef jerky. What? It doesn't happen in the city. Or another guy says he's got a four-wheeler and he tells me I can tear around town in it all by myself. He trusts the city boy to do that. I don't know what he was thinking, but I really love the people of Battle River-Crowfoot. They're the kind of what you see is what you get. Give you the shirt off their back. Tell it like it is. Common sense people. They reinforce. I love you too. Thank you very much. I love you. And they reinforced a lot of lessons that all of us in politics have to learn and relearn again. Humility and hard work, loyalty and love. You see, the people in these communities, they fight their own battles, but they're always ready to stop and help a neighbor or a friend. They know how to stretch a dollar, and most of all, they know, in the words of the great Paul Harvey, how to bail together a family with the soft, strong bonds of sharing. They reminded me of all of these things, and they also reminded me that the road to success is never a straight line. And most of all, you should never give up in hard times. That whenever hardship strikes, you need to stand up and keep on going. And if you care about something, you don't give up on it when things get difficult or you suffer a setback. These stories that were on the faces of the people I met, the woman suffering from cancer who had just overcome days of radiation treatment, who showed up at my town hall in Stettler to tell me to keep going. I say to her, you don't give up, so I don't give up. The waitress I met in the same town who told me she also works as a teacher and a ranch hand, but has no money left at the end of the month, somehow having 3 jobs. Because she doesn't give up, I won't give up. Or Patty. Patty, a female prison guard who works at the Drumheller Penitentiary and who was tied up and viciously assaulted by a violent criminal, and told me that she wasn't afraid, because she was too busy thinking about the job that she had to do to protect her fellow prison guards. My message to her is, you don't give up, so I don't give up. To Bill Bauer, who turned 100 years old in Acme. He was born and raised in a sod hut in rural Saskatchewan and lived through the Dust Bowl and the Depression, all to move to Alberta and start generation after generation of family here in this wonderful region. Because he doesn't give up, I don't give up. To the great people of the special areas whose ancestors were told a century ago, including Damien's great-grandparents, that they'd never be able to farm on that land. Too tough and too dry. And yet, on the homestead signs that you drive by on the highway, those old names are still there, and their great-great-grandchildren are still making those fields blossom. They never gave up, so I will never give up. To the great... Because as my mother, who's here today, taught me, when you get knocked down, you get up and you keep on going. If you believe in what you're doing, you march forward. And so I say to all of the people, not just in the great region of Battle Ridge River-Crowfoot, but right across this country, to anyone who has been knocked down, but has got back up and kept on going, you haven't given up, so I won't give up. Together, we will work together, we will fight together, we will sacrifice together to restore the opportunity that our grandparents left for us so that we can leave it for our grandchildren, so that we can once again restore a country that is strong, self-reliant, and sovereign. That is the country we're in this for. That is why we stay united. That is why we go forward. May God keep our land glorious and free. Thank you very much.